the Runkandel bloodline, a legendary clan of blade masters holding half the world in an iron grip. Blessed with godlike physiques and monstrous talent from birth, they did not just exist, they conquered. Their entire existence revolves around three absolute laws: battle, dominate, subdue. That ruthless dogma defined their legacy. And into this empire of steel, Jin was born as the youngest son of the supreme Runkandel family. During the sacred selection ceremony that seals a child's destiny, baby Jin reached out and grasped the patriarch's personal blade, a weapon meant only for the absolute ruler. A rare smile crossed his father's face, eyes burning with massive expectations. His booming voice echoed, "You chose perfectly, my son. The founder's sword, the absolute symbol of the Runkandel might. A flawless start, right?" Jin truly believed his path was paved with glory, but a brutal reality check completely crushed those dreams. Because fate played a cruel joke, the boy had absolutely zero talent for the blade. Soon, the golden child became the center of endless, suffocating whispers. "Look at him stumble. Is that really Runkandel blood?" The whispers quickly evolved into a permanent title: the shame of the Runkandels, a living disgrace, a walking insult to their supreme standards, the most pathetic failure to ever carry their terrifying family name. While Jin was sweating buckets, swinging a battered wooden sword in solitude, twin shadows loomed over him. The Tona brothers. "Hey, Jin, still playing with that pathetic twig?" The other twin sneered, dripping with venom. "Oh, come on, let the loser dream. Our little genius only wields special blades, remember?" Cruel laughter sliced through the training grounds. Their eyes screamed absolute superiority. Where would garbage like him even find a legendary weapon? Yeah, where is Barasada? Why is the chosen one hugging a piece of firewood? Jin swallowed his pride, desperately focusing on his agonizing swings. He locked his jaw, letting their poison bounce off him. But ignoring bullies only makes them mad. One twin stomped forward, ego totally bruised. "Hey, are you deaf when your superiors speak? Look at me." The verbal abuse instantly turned physical as a brutal kick slammed into Jin's gut. The impact sent him crashing into the dirt. The second twin towered over his fallen brother, a sickeningly arrogant smirk plastered on his face. "Useless piece of trash." Coughing for air, Jin dragged his bruised body forward, his trembling fingers reaching out for his dropped weapon. But before his fingertips could brush the wood, a heavy boot slammed down directly onto his hand. The twin leaned his weight in, whispering with malice, "Why are you so obsessed with this garbage? You are useless." With every word, the heavy boot twisted and ground down harder, threatening to shatter the bones in Jin's hand, right along with the hilt. Veins popped on Jin's forehead. He swallowed the agonizing screams, refusing to give them the satisfaction. Suddenly, the other brother snatched something from Jin's pocket. A wicked grin spread across his face. "Oh, wow, what is this garbage? Basic sword theory?" He crushed the worn pages in his fist, glaring down with pure disgust. "Hey, idiot, do you seriously think reading some stupid manual will magically fix your trash genetics? This right here is exactly why pathetic weaklings do not deserve a single ounce of hope." The twin scooped up the wooden practice sword, absolute malice dancing in his eyes. Realizing the devastating intent, panic finally broke through Jin's calm. He screamed out in pure panic, "Stop it! Hand it back!" But his desperate pleas fell on deaf ears as a loud snap echoed through the yard. The sword was destroyed. That sword was his only lifeline. "Wait, please." But the cruelty was far from over. Snapping his only weapon was not enough. The Tona twin mercilessly shredded the theory book, tossing the pieces like confetti. "You completely forgot your place, insect." Jin remained frozen in the dirt, forced to watch his tormentors literally trample his hard work into the mud. Stop it. In mere seconds, those two demons had snuffed out his burning determination. But the boy just could not let go. Shock paralyzed his body as his hollow eyes stared at the shattered wooden splinters scattered across the ground. "You did not have to go that far." But before the words fully left his mouth, vicious fingers tangled into the back of his hair. Yanking his head back with brutal force, the demon whispered right into his ear. "What was that? We are literally helping you face reality. Why is your mouth still moving? Did your pathetic nanny teach you that attitude?" The moment that name dropped, a spark of defiance returned to Jin's eyes. Gilly has absolutely nothing to do with this, but his spark of resistance only added fuel to their twisted fire. "Oh, look at the garbage talking back. I guess a serious lesson in respect is long overdue." Staring up from the dirt, those were not his flesh and blood anymore. They were absolute monsters, dragging a battered and broken body, systematically crushed by his own bloodline. Yet, muscles screaming in agony, he forced himself back up. His iron will simply refused to shatter completely. His internal monologue screamed, "Let my brothers torture me. Let the whole world mock my worthless talent. I do not care. I just have to bleed, sweat, and try harder. If I just push past my limits, the clan will finally see me. I will earn the name Runkandel. That was his naive, desperate religion. But reality is devastatingly cold. Every drop of his blood and sweat amounted to absolute zero. Ironically, under a gorgeous blue sky and golden sunshine, the final, ruthless judgment fell upon him. Jin Runkandle, as of this exact second, you are officially banished from this family. Standing like a ghost before the massive, intimidating iron gates of his home, the boy did not scream. He just stood in absolute silence, releasing a heavy, soul-crushing sigh. Decades of torturous persistence, rivers of sweat, the burning hunger to belong. It all evaporated into thin air like it never even mattered. Remembering his agonizing journey, Jin's fists clenched so hard his knuckles turned stark white. Pure, concentrated frustration twisted his features. But what could a powerless boy do? He had no choice but to swallow the devastating reality of his exile. And just like that, the curtain fell. Stripped of his name at age 25, the failed prodigy turned his back on the only world he knew, stepping into the absolute unknown. It was not until he met his enigmatic master that the truth finally hit Jin. He was not some worthless failure. He possessed a terrifying talent for magic, a power strictly outlawed within his legendary bloodline. Fast forward 3 years. Hidden away in his dimly lit study, Jin obsessively decoded ancient spells. He mastered the art of weaving nature's mana with his own core, amplifying his energy to an insane degree. But while completely lost in the flow of his aura, a sinister shadow materialized right behind his back. The darkness pulsed like a living, breathing entity. Before his survival instincts could even scream danger, reality literally shattered. He was dragged into a void of absolute nothingness. Suffocating darkness swallowed him whole, forcing Jin into an immediate battle stance. He demanded into the void. "Who are you?" A towering silhouette radiating a bone-chilling pressure answered. "I am Soldaret, the Lord of Shadows. Jin, I have come to forge a pact. Bind your soul to the God of Shadows, and you will not just wield absolute dominion over the abyss. You will also obliterate any curse cast upon your existence." With a mere pulse of dark energy, a massive, spectral blade violently materialized. It hovered right at Jin's throat. The deity scoffed. "My future contractor, it seems someone has fiercely despised you since your very first breath. Your legendary potential was chained down by a pathetic, low-tier hex." Jin, already reeling from the sudden dimensional kidnapping, felt his entire world crash down at those words. He stammered out, "A curse?" Soldaret simply nodded, exposing the grim reality. "Precisely. They call it the Blade of Illusion, a parasitic spell designed to devour your physical talent and cripple your sword path. It is a vile taboo that absolutely disgusts the proud Runkandle name." The visual shifted, revealing a glowing orb locking down a phantom sword, suffocated by heavy iron chains. Blazing crimson energy surged from the core, aggressively trying to melt the blade into ash. Soldaret slowly extended a dark, misty hand, grazing the violently glowing prison. Snap by snap, the divine being casually ripped away the unbreakable chains. "Fascinating. This tragedy is exactly why destiny pulled me to you. From this very second, no hex will ever dare touch your flesh again." The moment that godly decree echoed through the void, the fiery prison, and the restraints choking his innate swordsmanship violently exploded into a million shimmering shards. Jin stared in absolute shock, his pupils shaking, at the overwhelming godhood flexing right in front of his face. The sequence of events fired off so rapidly, his brain practically short-circuited. Having obliterated the chains of fate, the shadowy deity prepared to fade back into the abyss. The rest of the journey is yours to conquer. Rise as the ultimate magic swordsman, Jin. It will be an absolute thrill watching your legend unfold. With those final chilling words, Soldaret dissolved, violently pulling Jin back to reality. Standing alone in his dusty study, the young master froze like a statue, his mind scrambling to digest the absolute insanity he just witnessed. After what felt like an eternity, his pulse finally kicked in. Desperate to prove it was not a hallucination, Jin sprinted toward his personal blade, gripping the hilt as he stormed out into the open courtyard. Without a single hesitation, he unleashed a fierce slash. Channeling years of repressed knowledge, he tested the waters. The impact was instantaneous. The second the steel cleared its scabbard, a monstrous dormant aura erupted. The very tip of his blade birthed a violent tempest, viciously shredding the air and scattering the debris around him. The shadow god was not bluffing. With every single rotation of his wrist, Jin felt his limits shattering into dust. He plunged into an absolute trance of martial arts. This sensation was completely alien to him. It feels weightless. The heavy resistance is entirely gone. My blade feels like a natural extension of my own flesh. Flashes of his miserable, humiliated past ignited a massive fire in his soul, pushing his body to the absolute brink. The so-called ultimate trash of the legendary Runkandle family was now throwing arcs of pure, devastating destruction. This was the peak physical dominance he had craved his entire life. Out of nowhere, a crazy, risky thought crossed his mind. Wait, what if I infuse my mana into the steel? Will this manifest an actual aura blade? He did not hesitate for a microsecond. Jin instantly chanted a spell, aggressively merging magic with his raw kinetic strikes. The synergy was straight up apocalyptic. A casual swing generated a shockwave that roared like a raging thunderstorm, violently threatening to vaporize everything in its path. Breathing heavily, Jin smirked at the catastrophic crater. Finally, my blood, sweat, and tears are actually paying off. But his hype was tragically cut short. Watching from the shadows, an elite patrol of knights had witnessed his entire monstrous display. They were quietly analyzing this terrifying anomaly. Suddenly, a vicious wave of vertigo smashed into Jin's brain. When his blurry vision finally focused, pure apocalyptic hell surrounded him. Blood-curdling screams echoed from every direction. Is someone screaming in agony? Jin desperately pushed against the ground, but a massive, crushing boulder had pinned him down completely. Thick, crimson blood poured from his fatal wounds, painting the debris around him in deep red. Coughing up blood, Jin rasped out, "My limbs are practically paralyzed. How did this even happen?" He lay there in absolute despair, fiercely rejecting this pathetic ending. He had literally just unlocked his godly potential, and now the Grim Reaper was already knocking. Why now? The blazing indignation inside him refused to die. With his fading breath, he screamed into the void, "Master Soldaret, is anybody out there? I cannot believe I am literally dying in my sleep. After everything, am I really just a cursed loser? I never even got to truly flex my magic or unleash the Shadow Authority. If destiny was just going to slaughter me anyway, why the hell did you give me hope?" And just like that, Jin crossed the gates of hell beneath the bloody rubble. But then, reality snapped. His eyes violently flew open to blinding sunlight. Standing right in front of him were the prestigious heads of the Runcandle family. His brain short-circuited. My relatives? What kind of sick joke is this? I literally just died. He was kneeling on a vibrant emerald lawn, surrounded by a legendary sea of blades. And right by his side, his loyal nanny Gilly flashed a warm, comforting smile. "Cheer up, young Master Jin." He stared at her warm smile, completely stunned. Wait, is that really Gilly? Why was she suddenly here? Then, his eyes caught a brilliant gleam in the distance. An absolute masterpiece of a blade, radiating a terrifying aura that put every other weapon to shame. One glance was all it took. That legendary sword, Barisada. The puzzle pieces finally clicked together. He was back at his childhood selection ceremony, reborn into his one-year-old body, as the absolute youngest of the clan. But this time around, he was going straight for the ultimate prize, just like before. His tiny footsteps echoed through the grand hall. He reached out his chubby little hand, grasping the hilt of supreme power. Turning toward his completely flabbergasted family, his eyes burned with fierce resolve. I claim the Patriarch's throne. This second life belongs entirely to me. The entire Runcandel clan practically stopped breathing. Their jaws hit the floor as the baby gripped the clan's most sacred treasure. Did he just pick the absolute supreme blade? Total chaos erupted across the hall, until a booming voice sliced through the madness. The Grand Patriarch laid down the absolute law. The youngest has claimed Barisada. This selection ceremony is officially over. Escort him immediately to the Storm Castle. Fast forward exactly 6 years later, a massive thunderstorm violently raged outside the fortress walls. Savage lightning relentlessly tore through the pitch-black sky. Deep inside the insanely massive Grand Library, our reincarnated prodigy struggled desperately to grab a high-tier manual. Cursing his tiny 6-year-old stature, he dragged a heavy wooden stool over, muttering under his breath. 6 incredibly long years trapped in this gloomy castle. Thanks to the clan's ironclad traditions, I am stuck in this VIP prison until age 15. 3 more years of absolute boredom. But before he could complain any further, a blood-curdling shriek violently ripped through the silent hallway. Jin instantly snapped into combat mode, his eyes darting toward the heavy doors. What on earth just happened? He found his personal maid completely paralyzed by terror, her legs giving out. Inside your private quarters, young master. Someone slaughtered a bird. Jin kept his cool and marched straight into the crime scene. A pristine white dove lay brutally sliced wide open, crimson blood absolutely soaking its pure feathers. A downright sickening display of cruelty. His eyes narrowed into dangerous slits. He already knew exactly which twisted psychopaths pulled off this sick prank. The only trash in this castle capable of such garbage. And right on cue, the absolute menaces swaggered into the room. Catching the maid's traumatized face, they burst into toxic giggles. Oh my goodness. Would you look at that pathetic mess? Watching them practically radiate villain energy, Jin suppressed a heavy sigh and calmly turned his back to properly dispose of the innocent creature. his absolute nightmare of older brothers. The first Tona twin cackled like a maniac, faking disappointment. Such a total shame. The servant girl completely ruined our surprise. The second twin flashed a pure psycho grin, eagerly backing him up. Exactly right. We personally prepared this bloody masterpiece just for you. How do you like our little brotherly present? About to cry your eyes out, baby brother? Jin glared silently at the ruined feathers, his past life memories violently resurfacing. These absolute scumbags. I remember exactly how they transformed into legendary cold-blooded executioners later on. But right now, they were just twisted little brats, barely 9 years old, butchering a defenseless animal just to get under my skin. Misreading his deadpan silence as pure terror, the bullies laughed even harder, their obnoxious giggles echoing off the stone walls. The older twin leaned in with a totally punchable smirk. Aw, do not tell me you are actually going to bawl. I was the one who sliced it. When Jin literally gave zero reaction, their cocky smiles vanished. Yo, are you seriously ignoring us right now? Do you think you are untouchable just because you grabbed the big boss sword? How does a totally useless wimp like you dare to breathe without practically kissing our boots? Jin's invisible patience meter officially hit 0. He let out the heaviest, most exhausted sigh. The bully fiercely stepped up, getting right into Jin's personal space. Speak up, loser. Your pathetic little whispers are way too quiet for me. Without warning, he aggressively grabbed Jin's collar, winding up a massive, full-power haymaker, aiming to absolutely flatten the 6-year-old. But the script aggressively flipped. Jin's reflexes were completely otherworldly, catching the heavy fist effortlessly with one tiny palm. A terrifying wave of pure mana exploded from Jin, making the bully's eyes bulge out in absolute horror. He was staring straight at a literal monster in human skin. Jin locked eyes with his absolute nightmare gaze. You two are way too obnoxious. Keep your filthy mouths firmly shut. Bam! A lightning-fast counter-jab exploded against the twin's jaw, sending him violently flying backward. The stunned bully furiously scrambled on the floor, his toxic ego blinding his survival instincts. You little rat! But before another word could leave his mouth, Jin teleported into his blind spot, delivering a brutal second strike. He crashed down instantly. 2 absolute critical hits, and the older brother was completely out cold. The absolute rage bubbling inside Jin demanded he teach these future psychopaths a permanent lesson. I am absolutely done playing nice. A devastating uppercut to the gut literally launched the kid into the air. Gravity took over, violently slamming the bully face first into the cold stone floor. After completely demolishing his toxic siblings, Jin finally let his roaring mana fade, dusting off his tiny hands. Consider this a permanent warning. You better practically vanish whenever I step into the room. Just then, heavy armor clanked at the doorway, as an elite knight rushed in to witness the absolute carnage. Young master, what exactly happened here? Khan demanded, his eyes darting around the chaos. Jin didn't miss a beat. He smoothly tucked his hand behind his back, hiding the dark magical energy still crackling across his fingertips. I ask again, young master Jin, what is the meaning of this? Khan's gaze locked onto the absolute wreckage in the corner. There lay the 2 meathead Tona brothers, totally battered and knocked out cold. Jin threw a freezing glare at the unconscious duo on the floor. They just barged in out of nowhere, he lied with a straight face. And then, they started throwing hands at each other. Khan was not buying a single word of that. Excuse me? They what? He pressed. Jin spun around to face the knight, letting a heavy sigh of pure annoyance escape his lips. Are you deaf? I said. They brawled, until they both blacked out. Khan scanned the brutal injuries, painting the twins' bodies, his mind racing to connect the dots. The apple truly does not fall far from the tree, Khan realized. Even the youngest run candle has that ruthless killer instinct. But outwardly, the knight kept his mouth completely shut. Is that how it happened? Understood. I shall transport the young masters to the infirmary immediately. But Jin's voice sliced through the room like ice. Skip the doctor, Khan. My dear brothers have another destination tonight. Without missing a beat, Jin commanded the veteran knight to drag the beaten twins outside. Follow my lead. Outside, a savage storm was absolutely flooding the courtyard. Stopping in the torrential rain, Jin pointed straight at a massive tombstone, gesturing for Khan to dump them right there, drop them on the stone. Khan hesitated, clearly stressed by the unhinged order. Young Master Jin, are you seriously leaving your own blood out here in this weather? The hurricane is only getting worse by the second. Tucked beneath his heavy raincoat, Jin let his mind drift back to the endless torment these two had put him through. His heart was pure ice. Forgiveness was not even in his vocabulary anymore. He stared down at them with a completely deadpan expression. My beloved brothers are about to learn a very harsh lesson about consequences. Catching the absolute zero aura radiating from the boy's eyes, Khan bowed his head. I will follow your will to the letter, young master. Jin spun on his heel and vanished into the pouring rain. But as Khan watched the boy's shadow fade, his sharp senses picked up a lingering, unnatural vibe in the air. The veteran knight's eyes went wide with shock. Wait, this heavy pressure, that is not sword aura. Is he wielding mana? If that is true, this just went from a sibling rivalry to a clan-level crisis. The patriarch needs to hear about this immediately. Khan whipped his head toward a soaked guard standing watch. You there! The startled soldier snapped to attention. Yes, Sir Khan? Get my fastest horse ready, now. Back up in the towering fortress, Jin had finally returned to the quiet safety of his bedroom. Peering out the window, he watched Khan frantically saddling his mount in the raging storm. He is making a run to inform father, Jin smirked to himself. Right on schedule. As the knight spurred his horse into the brutal hurricane, completely ignoring the apocalyptic weather, Jin's mind started working overtime. Khan is not just protecting us, he is the family watchdog. And to a veteran like him, my power definitely reeked of magic. So there is zero chance he keeps this a secret. Leaning against the glass, Jin flexed his hand. Instantly, tendrils of pitch-black energy coiled around his fingers like living shadows. This dark spiritual energy was the ultimate cheat code, the undeniable proof of his divine contract with the shadow god, Soldaret. It meant his insane powers had carried over into this second life. Better yet, the god's absolute immunity to hexes meant Jin was finally free from that massive debuff. The illusory blade curse that ruined his past life was completely wiped out. Jin crushed the dark magic in his palm, his eyes burning with vengeance. The useless trash of the Run Candle bloodline was dead and gone. This timeline, he was going to dominate everything. Now, there was only one final boss to face. His terrifying father. Hours passed, the storm finally died down, and the morning sun began to pierce the clouds. Miles away, Khan was already kneeling before the absolute apex predator of the Run Candle clan, spilling every single detail of the night's insane events. That concludes my report, my lord. Siren Run Candle, the god of swords himself, sat on his throne in absolute, suffocating silence. My youngest boy, crushed the Tona twins? Siren's voice finally boomed. Khan, mobilize the elite guard. We ride to see my son immediately. In the blink of an eye, the absolute heavy hitters of the Run Candle family assembled. These were not regular soldiers. They were the clan's ultimate killing machines. The sheer aura radiating from the courtyard was downright terrifying. A young officer bowed sharply. My lord, the 7 vanguards of the family have answered the call, along with 200 elite riders. Mounted on his massive warhorse, Siron looked down at his private army. Perfect. This was no casual trip. Every single specialized division of the Run Candle forces was locked, loaded, and ready to march. Siron swept his gaze across the legendary warriors standing before him. His eyes flashed with anticipation. Our destination is the Storm Castle. Move out. Getting dragged out of bed for a midnight raid had everyone completely confused. Marching toward her horse, Mary, the clan's 7th vanguard, grumbled out loud. A code red mobilization? Bro, do you have any idea what is going on? I tried asking Luna, but she is totally clueless too. Mary stretched, letting out a massive, dramatic yawn. I was literally in the middle of hunting witches. Beside her, Dipus, the 4th vanguard, stroked his chin in deep thought. Well, the Tona twins are scheduled to leave the Storm Castle next year, he theorized aloud. Maybe father is making a move early? But then, he stopped dead in his tracks. Or, maybe this crazy mobilization is all for our youngest brother. Mary's eyes went wide, and she basically shouted in pure shock. The baby of the family? Why the heck would father care about him? Dipus smirked. Did you forget? During his selection ceremony, that kid literally grabbed the founder's legendary sword. The memory hit Mary like a truck. Wait, you are totally right, she gasped, throwing her hands up. But her hype faded as logic kicked in. Still, grabbing a sword as a baby is not enough to trigger a massive military march in the dead of night. Is the patriarch seriously doing all this just for him? Dipus just shrugged, totally lost. Trying to predict the godlike patriarch was literally impossible. Up ahead, Luna, the absolute strongest first knight of the family, caught onto their noisy gossiping. She shot a terrifying glance over her shoulder. Mary, Dipus, zip it. Instantly, Mary gulped, realizing she had definitely been broadcasting her thoughts way too loud. She offered a sheepish grin. My bad, big sis. Dipus's words echoed in Mary's mind, leaving a bitter taste. The patriarch actually left the main estate just for him? Is that little brat seriously that valuable to the bloodline? Meanwhile, deep within the Storm Castle, Gilly meticulously smoothed out the creases in Jin's collar. Her voice buzzed with pure excitement. The head of the family is actually coming to see us. Maybe he just suddenly missed his youngest son? She beamed. But Jin barely batted an eye, his voice absolutely ice cold. Maybe. Turning around so Gilly could comb his hair, the gears in Jin's head started turning. Khan definitely spilled everything to the old man, but that night is painfully dense. There is zero chance he realized I was using magic. He just reported the raw physical feats he witnessed. Behind him, Gilly carefully untangled his dark locks. "Tilt your head a little to the right, young master," she chirped. While she fussed over his appearance, Jin zeroed in on his father's true motives. The infamous youngest son awakened an eerie power, something entirely disconnected from traditional magic or sword aura. The patriarch is only marching back here to dissect that anomaly. He wants to weigh my absolute worth, to calculate if this new power makes me a deadly weapon for the clan's ultimate future. Right on cue, the thunderous galloping of heavy cavalry shattered the silence of the storm castle. The colossal iron gates groaned open. Dozens of elite knights instantly snapped into a flawless formation in the courtyard. Their armor clattered in perfect, terrifying unison, radiating the absolute authority of their supreme leader. "We pledge our lives to the patriarch," they roared. Siron Runcandle stepped into the grand hall, his very presence suffocating the room with a monstrous, mountain-like aura. He did not waste a single breath on pleasantries. "Drag the Tona twins in here," he commanded. Moments later, the two brothers were violently forced to their knees before the apex predator of their family, Daytona. "Hey Tona." His voice was a heavy blade dropping on their necks. The usually arrogant bullies violently slammed their foreheads against the marble floor, trembling like absolute cowards. "Yes, father," they squeaked out. But before they could even beg for mercy, his crushing interrogation began. "Word has it, you clashed with Jin. Speak. What exactly did you two screw up?" Their eyes bulged in pure, unadulterated terror. Cold sweat drenched their backs. After agonizing seconds of silence, their panicked brains finally spat out a pathetic defense. "We did nothing wrong. It was Jin. He was the one who viciously attacked us." Entirely clueless to the deadly trap they were stepping into, they kept digging their own graves. "Exactly, father. Whatever he used, it was totally bizarre. That was definitely not sword aura. It felt exactly like magic." Catching a terrifying glint in their father's narrowed eyes, the twins desperately threw more gas on the blazing fire. "Magic is an absolute taboo in the Runcandle bloodline, right? You have to lock him up and torture the truth out of him before he buries the evidence." Watching from the shadows, Mary and Diffus observed this utterly pathetic, victim-blaming performance. Both of them let out a heavy, synchronized sigh. What an absolute pair of brain-dead clowns. Before the twins could spin another ridiculous lie, Siren shattered their delusions. "Shut your mouths. Open your ears and listen closely." His freezing gaze pierced right through their miserable souls. "Keep acting like this, and you will not survive a single day longer in the Runcandle household." The sheer killing intent in his voice finally made reality crash down on them. Choking on their own massive regret, they stared up at the patriarch in absolute horror. Completely disgusted, Siren dismissed them with a wave of his hand. "Drag Jin in here." Stepping through the massive double doors, Jin caught sight of his older brothers stumbling out like soulless zombies. He instantly connected the dots. Siron Runcandle, my biological father, the absolute strongest, and without a doubt, the most cold-blooded monster I have ever encountered in 2 lifetimes. The world worships him as the Genesis Knight, a being standing at the absolute summit of demigods. But long before that legendary title, he was simply mortal flesh and blood. Reaching that godlike realm burned away his humanity. Every trace of warmth vanished, leaving behind a ruthless machine programmed solely for the eternal glory of the clan. That is exactly why, in his terrifying eyes, a swordless failure like my past self was absolutely nothing but disposable garbage. Jin squeezed his eyes shut, grounding himself in the present. The script has flipped. In this second life, absolutely nobody gets to look down on me. That fierce resolution ignited a roaring fire in his chest. The suffocating pressure of his father's aura suddenly felt like a gentle breeze. He marched into the lion's den with absolute royal grace. No trembling, no cold sweat, just pure, unbreakable confidence. The entire hall gasped in utter disbelief. Whispers erupted as the elite guards stared at the shockingly composed 7-year-old. Even the ever-critical Mary widened her eyes. She leaned entirely over the balcony rail, captivated by this brand-new version of their youngest sibling. Diffus clicked his tongue at her blatant fascination, but Mary completely ignored his sour mood. Surrounded by the heavy stares of the clan's absolute elite, Jin finally reached the center of the grand hall. Dropping smoothly to one knee, he executed a flawless, textbook bow. "I greet the Supreme Patriarch." The icy, strictly professional title immediately made Siren twitch his eyebrow in subtle annoyance. "Patriarch?" he echoed, his deep voice vibrating through the floorboards. "Have you suddenly forgotten how to say father?" Meeting that terrifying gaze, Jin confidently fired back. "Every single one of my older siblings is present, along with dozens of elite guards and over 100 core members of the bloodline. Since this is clearly an official tribunal of the highest order, bringing personal feelings into it would be a massive insult. I judged that recognizing your supreme authority was the only correct move." Over in the corner, The eldest sister Luna felt her heart race at her little brother's razor-sharp political instincts. A rare, dangerous smirk crept onto Siron's face. Humph. Flawless logic. Not a single trace of arrogance leaked from the boy despite the massive compliment. He simply lowered his head further. Your praise is an honor, Patriarch. But Siren immediately cut to the bloody chase. Drop the formalities. Today is entirely different. You will call me father. Now, brace yourself. I am going to ask you the exact same question I asked those two crying fools. The temperature in the room plummeted below freezing as Siron leaned forward. Tell me, youngest, in this entire messy situation, what exactly was your fatal mistake? Jin's knuckles turned stark white as his resolve locked into place. Honestly, he just craved payback. A true run candle repays loyalty with absolute loyalty, and betrayal with total destruction. He dropped this cold, hard truth without a single flinch of guilt. Watching from the sidelines, his chaotic older sister Mary actually felt a massive spark of respect for the youngest. That ruthless, eye for an eye mindset was exactly her vibe. Meanwhile, Patriarch Siron let a heavy, suffocating silence drown the grand hall. Finally, his booming voice shattered the quiet. Clear the room. Everyone except my youngest son. Out. That single command sent absolute shockwaves through the crowd. Whispers erupted like wildfire. Did the young master actually pass the ultimate test? But before the gossip could spiral, a high-ranking general barked a harsh warning. The Patriarch has spoken. Move your feet. In a flash, the elite guards snapped into perfect, terrifying formation. They marched out of the massive doors without missing a beat. Mary strutted out right behind them. This little brother of hers was getting way too interesting. Staring down their monstrous father without blinking, the kid had absolute ice in his veins. Soon, the heavy iron doors slammed shut, leaving only the supreme predator and his cub isolated. Siron's piercing gaze locked onto Jin. I emptied this room for one specific reason. We need to have a little chat. Those Tona twins have been whining about some mysterious power you possess. Let me be crystal clear. The Run Candle bloodline absolutely forbids the arcane arts. Relying on spells makes you a weak target. It completely ruins your path to the absolute peak of the sword. So, what exactly is this trick you've been hiding? If I find out you've been messing with cheap sorcery, I will personally crush you. The lethal threat hung in the air. Jin didn't speak right away. Instead, a confident, borderline arrogant smirk crept onto his face. He traced the origin of his mysterious energy. If the terrifying Patriarch discovered the actual truth behind this force, there was zero chance he could just ignore it. Not when it involved the literal god of shadows. Playing the innocent card perfectly, Jin bowed his head. I honestly don't know what it is either, father. It doesn't feel like traditional mana, but it is definitely not aura. It doesn't even have a proper name yet. So, if you would be so kind, could you evaluate this energy for yourself? Without a second of hesitation, Jin flipped open his palm. Instantly, a swirling sphere of raw chaos materialized out of thin air. A blinding, bluish-white core pulsed violently in his grip, completely wrapped in a suffocating, pitch-black haze. Witnessing this impossible display, the ever-stoic Patriarch actually scowled in pure, unfiltered shock. This was the legendary energy of their very first ancestor. Siren was utterly mesmerized by the dark orb floating in his son's hand. Is that Shadow Force? The legendary aura of Barasada? His mind raced at light speed. Did the heavens literally choose this kid to rule the entire empire? Jin looked up with perfectly faked curiosity, waiting for the massive verdict. Father, do you recognize it? Siron snapped out of his total daze. Yes, that is the direct blessing of Soldaret, the absolute god of shadows. Jin played his part flawlessly, looking appropriately confused. A god of shadows? Siron nodded deeply, his aura flaring. Exactly. Millennia ago, Soldaret forged a blood pact with our founding father, Lord Tamar. That deity has backed our bloodline ever since. But when Tamar fell, the shadow god completely vanished from our history, without a trace. The reason was always a total mystery. But now, it seems that ancient entity is using you as a bridge, right back to the clan. Pushing his luck, Jin fired back a wild, boundary-pushing question. Father, I have to know, is a literal god stronger than you? Honestly, the absolute pinnacle of humanity did not have a clue. Siren stroked his chin thoughtfully. I cannot say for sure, mostly because I have never had the chance to brawl with a deity. Jin internally facepalmed. Never fought a god? That was deadass the most terrifyingly arrogant flex he had ever heard in both of his lives. Suddenly, the giant of a man stepped forward and roughly ruffled Jin's hair with heavy, surprising affection. My boy, that was a phenomenal question. Your little inquiry just gave me a wildly entertaining thought experiment. Stepping into this hall today was definitely the right call. But now it is my turn to interrogate. That godly power. What exactly is your grand master plan for it? Knowing he was walking a deadly tightrope, Jin fired off the ultimate textbook answer. I will wield this shadow force entirely for the glory and total survival of the clan. Siren's expression instantly darkened. For the clan? A tense beat passed. Then, a thunderous, booming laugh violently erupted from his massive chest. He called out the absolute garbage response immediately. That is the single most ridiculous lie you have ever told. You literally battered your own blood brothers into the dirt, tossed them out into a raging storm to suffer. And you expect me to believe you are suddenly a team player? His voice dropped to a terrifying whisper. Cut the act. Give me the raw truth. A slight tremor hit Jin's fingertips. He knew this absolute monster would not let him off the hook. Swallowing his fear, Jin finally dropped the fake mask. I am going to use this power purely for myself. The tension was totally suffocating. But wildly enough, that raw, selfish honesty hit exactly the right note. Perfect. I respect a man who does not hide his ambition. Siron turned his massive frame to leave, tossing one last chilling warning. I will be keeping a very close eye on you, kid. The second the massive doors clicked shut, all the air rushed out of Jin's burning lungs. The crazy adrenaline crashed, and his legs nearly buckled beneath him. Holy crap, he actually survived. Securing a free pass to spam shadow magic however he wanted was literally the ultimate jackpot. But now, he had a massive target on his back. Siren was expecting a legendary show. Things were spiraling way off script, but honestly, this timeline was a million times better than his tragic past life. Jin squeezed the dark power in his fist, letting a truly villainous smirk cross his face. He was rewriting his entire destiny from scratch. But wait, flashing back to just before the room cleared out earlier, his crazy sister Mary had whipped back around. Yo, little bro, catch. She had chucked a ridiculously ornate, heavily wrapped mystery box straight at him. Startled, Jin had completely fumbled. Wait, Sister Mary, what even is this? But the battle junkie didn't do returns, instantly shoving the massive package toward his loyal nanny. Here, Nanny Gilly, you carry it. It weighs a total ton. The poor maid had practically scrambled, throwing out both hands to catch the dropping weight. Handle this with care, Mary smirked, tapping the ornate chest. Consider this a little welcome present, straight from yours truly. Her lips curled into a dangerously playful grin as she shoved the heavy container into his tiny hands, leaning in to whisper her absolute conditions. Boil it down, chew every last bite, and level up your strength as soon as possible. Understand? Without waiting for an answer, she spun on her heel and strutted right back to her armored squad. Catching her empty hands, Diffus raised an eyebrow. Where did your baggage go? Mary just flashed a nonchalant smirk. Oh, I dumped it on the kid. Watching the elite knights fade into the distance, Jin was left totally baffled. Out of everyone, why choose me? But the moment he cracked the lid open, boom! A blinding blast of rose gold aura erupted from within, completely bathing both him and Gilly in its majestic glow, freezing them dead in their tracks. Their jaws practically hit the floor. A literal phoenix heart. Jina Yuro's mind raced. Handing a mythic tier artifact to a 7-year-old toddler, Sister Mary had totally lost her marbles. But then again, this was Mary Runkindell we were talking about. An absolute beast of a 6-star knight. She ranked as the 7th blade of the legendary Runkandel family. Most feared her as Stormwind Mary, but she carried a much darker, underground title, the absolute psycho of the Southern Territory. And her motive for tossing me this insane loot? Crystal clear. She wanted me to grind my stats and become her ultimate rival. Consuming this flame core at my age wouldn't just grant me top-tier fire immunity. It would act as a permanent power buff, multiplying my base stats as I grew older. And the craziest part? This very core was the exact catalyst a 6-star mage needed to safely summon a mythical firebird. In this second life, summoning an actual phoenix wasn't just a pipe dream anymore. While he was busy hyping up his future build, his loyal nanny Gilly had already sprinted to the kitchen, professionally brewing the artifact into a meal. Young master, did I keep you waiting? Snapping back to reality, Jin stared at the steaming masterpiece plated perfectly before him, absolutely speechless. Whoa, you're a lifesaver, Gilly. Setting the bubbling broth down, her eyes shined with pride. Lady Mary has truly blessed you with an unimaginable treasure. Please, dig in before the magic fades. Jin picked up his spoon, but then let out a heavy sigh, tossing a side-eye toward the shadows. Look, before I down this, you two, spit it out already. Lurking in the darkest corner of the room, the infamous Tona twins were practically foaming at the mouth, their eyes locked onto the glowing broth. Busted. Realizing their stealth mode had completely failed, the duo abandoned all their aristocratic pride, sprinting out like starving street dogs to beg for a bite. Oh, it's nothing major, one stammered, sweating bullets. That bowl just looks way too massive for a tiny kid like you to solo. His clone instantly backed him up. Facts. I saw Gilly lugging that gigantic pot. Jin just deadpanned at their pathetic excuse. Are you guys seriously that desperate for a taste? Bingo. The twins' eyes sparkled like diamonds, bobbing their heads up and down like crazy. Fine, Jin smirked. But nothing comes free. Complete one little quest for me first. Cut to a few hours later. The supposedly elite Tona brothers were literally down in the dirt, excavating a massive underground tunnel right beneath the foundations of Storm Castle. Blisters forming on their hands, they aggressively shoveled dirt while venting their frustrations. Bro, why are we even doing manual labor? This is just solid rock. For real. If the guards catch us playing mole, we're totally dead meat. Despite his whining, Haytona was swinging his pickaxe like an absolute madman. Are you dumb? He panted. If we get busted, the youngest takes all the aggro. We have literal zero risk here. Daytona paused, realizing his twin was actually cooking with that logic. Wait, you're a genius. We just grab the loot and dip. He grinned maliciously. Plus, that kid gives me major creep vibes lately. Shink. Their blades finally struck hollow ground. They had perfectly breached the exact coordinates Jin calculated, directly above the hidden sanctuary. Deep down in the shadows of that forbidden chamber, an enormous stasis tube glowed faintly. Trapped inside, floated the terrifying silhouette of a jacked, mysterious warrior, radiating an overwhelming, heavy aura. Quest complete. The aristocratic brothers dragged themselves back to the dining hall, looking completely wrecked, their fancy clothes drenched in filth and sweat. Gilly practically choked on air, her eyes bugging out at the sight of the muddy disasters. Meanwhile, Jin sat at the head of the table like a mob boss, patiently waiting. Welcome back, my dear brothers. Hard day at work? Triggered by his calm tone, the twins snapped, barking back with serious venom. Zip it, pipsqueak. We carried out your stupid chore, now fork over the premium buff. Playing the gracious host, Jin casually gestured forward. Relax. I've already served your portions. Their exhaustion instantly vanished. Adrenaline pumping, they charged the table like starving beasts. No cap? But as they frantically scanned the elegant woodwork, reality hit them. There was no massive pot, no overflowing bowls. Where is it? Resting dead center on a massive silver platter were two pitiful, microscopic droplets of broth. Absolute, crushing despair shattered their souls. Their faces darkened into pure shadows as they stared at the microscopic scam, boiling with rage. But far too weak to actually fight Jin, they had no choice but to swallow their pride and take the ultimate L. Bro, isn't this a literal scam? Jin didn't even blink, completely unbothered by their whining. I promised you a taste, he stated coldly. I never signed a contract on the portion size. A deal is a deal, isn't it? Now be good boys, and enjoy your meal. The Tona twins glared at their pathetic single drops, grinding their teeth so hard they nearly cracked. Yeah, thanks for absolutely nothing. Later that night, a brutal thunderstorm rolled in. Slipping into his dark raincoat, Jin vanished into the pouring rain, heading straight for the newly excavated drop zone. Peering down into the pitch-black abyss, Jin couldn't help but smirk. I fully expected those idiots to botch the job, but color me surprised, they actually dug a perfect shaft. Running his hands along the damp earth, he analyzed the structural integrity. Just a thin layer left. A basic one-star spell will easily blow this wide open. The stone barrier was fragile enough for a targeted blast. My mana core has been overflowing lately anyway. Might as well burn off some of this crazy energy. Channeling his raw power, a crackling sphere of sheer mana formed in his palm. Without hesitation, he slammed it straight into the bedrock. Kaboom! The blast wave shredded the final earthen seal to absolute dust, finally unveiling the legendary hidden sanctuary right before Jin's very eyes. Excitement coursed through his veins. The legendary hidden vault of the Runcandle bloodline finally stood before him. Gazing at the massive doors, memories flooded his mind. In my previous life, this place was an absolute forbidden zone. Standing here now feels completely surreal. But to unlock this vault, he needed the exact password. A sharp smirk crossed Jin's face. He knew exactly what to say. Taking a deep breath, he chanted the ancient phrase. The blood of Runcandle descends to dominate Morrikan. Heavy stone groaned as the massive gates finally parted. Stepping into the shadows, Jin scanned the breathtaking space. This wasn't just a room. It was a graveyard of defeated legends, hoarding the ultimate martial arts manuals of every clan Runcandle had crushed over a millennium. A sacred ground strictly reserved for the clan's absolute elite flag bearers. Jin's eyes widened in sheer awe. This place is absolutely massive. Flashbacks of his past life hit him. His arrogant older brother had once bragged about this vault, mocking Jin for being too weak to ever care about it, claiming a failure like him would never earn the title of flag bearer. Jin chuckled darkly. Thanks for running your mouth, big bro. You literally handed me the master key. Time to claim what is rightfully mine. But, as he ventured deeper into the dusty archives, a bizarre sight stopped him dead in his tracks. A mysterious man was suspended inside a colossal glass containment unit. What in the world is this? Leaning in closer, an ominous, pitch-black aura pulsed from the glass. Complex, ancient cursed marks crept across the sleeping figure's face. Jin squinted, his mind racing. Is this really a human being? He cautiously pressed his palm against the icy barrier. The sheer pressure of the dark energy inside sent shivers down his spine. How could something this powerful exist here? Then, the realization struck him like a bolt of lightning. Wait a second. The password to open the main gates. The blood of Runkindel descends to dominate Murakhan. If his terrifying theory was correct, the monstrous entity hibernating right in front of him was none other than the legendary Black Dragon, Murakhan. Myths claimed this cataclysmic beast was utterly crushed by the very first Runkandel patriarch, sealed away in an eternal slumber. Jin always brushed it off as a bedtime fairy tale. Yet here he was, staring absolute destruction in the face. Holy crap, the myths were actually true. Shaking off his shock, Jin quickly regained his laser focus. A sleeping dragon could wait. I do not have time to stare at museum exhibits. I need those supreme martial arts scrolls right now. But entirely unnoticed by the young Swordmaster, the sealed entity faintly twitched. A single finger shifted within the dark abyss. Completely oblivious, Jin scavenged through the endless aisles until he struck absolute gold. Jackpot. Towering shelves packed with forbidden knowledge loomed over him. His heart raced as he scanned the ultimate combat techniques of ruined empires. Let us see what we have here. I should prioritize the elite martial arts factions, since my path is bound to the sword. Skimming through the ancient diagrams, Jin frowned. This is way more complex than three-star magic theory. Snatching these scrolls would be amazing, but smuggling them out is a pure death sentence. Whipping out a blank journal, a calculated grin appeared. I will just manually copy every single technique, night after night. When dawn broke, Jin seamlessly slipped back into the storm castle. Playing the perfect, innocent child, he spent the day quietly reading beside his loyal nanny, Gilly. But the second midnight struck, his real work began. Like a phantom, he navigated the underground maze back to the archives, hungry for power. On one particular night, his pen fiercely danced across the pages. Suddenly, an echoing thud shattered the dead silence. Jin instantly leaped to his feet, combat ready. Who goes there? Melding into the shadows behind a massive pillar, he held his breath, scanning the dimly lit corridor. This makes no sense. It is physically impossible for anyone from the castle to bypass those wards. Suddenly, a bone-chilling voice echoed. Hey brat, show yourself. Stepping out of the darkness was the unthinkable. The Black Dragon Murakhan, fully unleashed. Jin's mind completely short-circuited. His body locked up in pure, unadulterated shock. Murakhan? How in the world did this calamity wake up? Throughout my entire past life, this monster never once opened its eyes. Get a grip, Jin. Breathe. He is supposed to be the Runkindel family's divine guardian. If I play the innocent, well-mannered descendant card, I might survive this encounter. Forcing his wildly beating heart to calm, Jin immediately bowed deeply. With perfectly faked reverence, he declared, This humble child of Runkandel pays the highest respects to our noble guardian. Instead of mercy, a deafening, manic laughter shook the room. The title of guardian had completely triggered the beast. Did you just call me a guardian? Jin swallowed hard as explosive. Murderous intent suffocated the air. You disgusting Runkandels. A guardian? How dare you reduce a being of my magnitude to a pathetic watchdog? Curse your entire bloodline. You dare insult my pride? The dragon gritted his teeth, visibly holding back his destructive urge to vaporize the boy. Just looking at you arrogant humans makes my blood boil. After a terrifying tantrum, Murakhan aggressively plopped onto the floor, letting out a massive groan. Damn it all, damn it. So freaking annoying. But wait, my senses are picking up something incredibly nostalgic. Among the stench of a weak human child, Murakhan suddenly invaded Jin's personal space, sniffing the air around him like a predator. Is it coming from you? Jin stood absolutely petrified as the ancient being inspected his soul. The young boy stammered out, Sir? Murakhan's eyes narrowed dangerously, locking onto Jin's core. Why the hell are you radiating pure shadow energy? Jin's eyes widened in genuine confusion. Shadow energy? The dragon jabbed a sharp finger right at Jin's chest. Exactly. I may have been sealed away for 1,000 agonizing years, but I would never forget that absolute darkness. That intoxicating scent of supreme magic only belongs to those bound by a divine pact, just like Tamar. In that exact second, the puzzle pieces violently clicked in Jin's mind. The real reason this cataclysmic dragon broke his eternal slumber. My awakened shadow powers, they resonated with his seal. The terrifying beast was now sniffing him like an overly curious puppy. He inhaled sharply. That distinct energy, where was it leaking from? A dangerous idea sparked in Jin's mind. Time to roll the dice. A sly smirk crossed Jin's face. Lord Murakhan. The massive entity spun around, his face lighting up with absolute hype. Ah, hitting the nail on the head. You are hiding something, aren't you? Without hesitation, Jin let his shadow aura explode. Care to explain this little trick? My old man claims this dark energy belongs to the god of shadows himself, Soldaret. Staring dead at the swirling orb of pure darkness, hovering above the toddler's palm, Murakhan completely short-circuited for 5 straight seconds. His entire body shook as he roared to the heavens. Yo, Soldaret, is this some kind of sick joke? Are you for real right now? With every word, his majestic ego shattered. He crumbled to the dirt, dramatically weeping without shedding a single tear. A 1,000-year sacred vow. For this literal infant? Jin deadpan watched this towering giant throw a total tantrum. Suddenly, they locked eyes. Murakhan instantly broke eye contact, coughing awkwardly. Hey Squirt, Jin answered with cold professionalism. Yes, Lord Murakhan. Hearing that tone, the ancient being wanted the ground to swallow him whole. Look, I made a blood oath with Soldret back in the day, and it looks like I need your help to actually fulfill it. You are the guy. Jin froze in his tracks. An oath with the shadow god? Murakhan suddenly got dead serious. I will drop the heavy lore on you later. My brain is literally fried from centuries of sleep right now. Plus, a toddler like you wouldn't grasp the gravity of it anyway. But I guess I gotta do the formal intro for Soldret's chosen contractor, right? With a heavy sigh, the eccentric man rose to his feet. And boom! His body shifted into the awe-inspiring form of a colossal black dragon. I am Murakhan, the absolute proxy of Soldret, his oldest comrade, and the sole surviving heir of the primal shadow beasts, bound by the Millennium Pact. I am now tied to your fate. Jin's pupils dilated in pure shock. His brain struggled to process the legendary myth, breathing right in front of him. Tied to my fate? The massive pitch-black leviathan glared down at the boy with piercing eyes. State your name, chosen one of the shadows. Jin stared straight into the abyssal dragon's eyes, a triumphant smirk curving his lips. He boldly pressed his tiny hand against the beast's massive scale. Jin Runcandle, the 13th and absolute youngest bloodline of the Runcandle clan. The skies darkened ominously. The system lore was unmistakable. The black dragon Murakhan, the unforgiving peak known as Mount Murakhan, got its name entirely from this exact beast. This tyrant of the skies ruled that territory ages ago, but flashback 1,000 years. He was completely crushed in an epic clash against the first patriarch, Temar Runcandle. History books claim that after the storm castle fell, Murakhan was forced into an endless slumber. Jin processed the facts in his head. Wait, that is total cap. That is just the founder's propaganda about taming a guardian beast. Rule number 1. God-tier contractors always get paired with a guardian dragon. But since the archives are literally empty, regarding Soldaret's specific beast, the puzzle was full of missing pieces. Jin's gears kept turning. Does this mean the records were blank because Murakhan was taking a 1,000-year nap? And now that he is awake, did I just score an overpowered guardian dragon? The realization hit him like a freight train. Murakhan is right here. The dragon practically vibrated with excitement. Oh heck yes. You actually came back. Jin stood awkwardly, holding a massive plate of sweets. My nanny packed some snacks for us. His inner monologue fired back up. Since I am stuck with this ancient lizard for the next few days, I might as well squeeze some legendary lore out of him. And yep, that is the story of how Murakhan officially woke up. I have been hiding him in this secret library for weeks now. Out of nowhere, Murakhan paused his aggressive cake munching. Why did I throw down with Tamar? The dragon flopped onto the floor like a lazy cat. Bro, that was a literal 1,000 years ago. How the heck am I supposed to remember that? Hearing that lame excuse, Jin instantly realized one brutal truth about his new partner. Murakhan suddenly cut off his internal roasting. Okay, look, but is this seriously all the strawberry cake you brought? Jin rubbed his temples and sighed in defeat. This dude is obsessed with strawberry cake. Meanwhile, the mythical beast was literally counting crumbs. 1, 2, 3. Are you kidding me? Only 7 slices? Jin gritted his teeth. This legendary terror of the skies only cares about sugar. After vacuuming up the last bite, Murakhan side-eyed the boy. So what is your actual goal when you sneak in here? Jin gently traced the cover of an ancient tome. I study. I bring blank journals, and try to decipher the hidden knowledge you casually drop. Murakhan raised an eyebrow. Oh, for real? So your tiny brain actually absorbs some of this? Jin let out a heavy breath. Maybe 30%. The rest is complete gibberish to me. Murakhan waved it off like it was nothing. Hey, do not sweat it. For a kid your age, this stuff is practically mind-melting. Most kids would just rage quit. That is how normal toddlers operate. Jin looked down, his voice dropping dead serious. I am a Runcandle. Being normal is a death sentence. I am competing against 12 ruthless siblings, not to mention my terrifying parents and clan elders. If I want to survive and crush them all, I have to grind infinitely harder. Murakhan scratched his chin. wondering how the legendary first patriarch would have handled this exact magical theory back in the day. Jin sank deeper into his own anxiety. If I stack my current progress against the absolute peak of human strength, am I even making a dent? Suddenly, the dragon shattered his self-doubt. Listen, Temar could not read a single word of this high-tier garbage when he was your age. The ancient being sat up, dropping some unexpected wisdom. Theory does not dictate reality. That guy was utterly clueless with books, but he was an absolute monster on the battlefield. Trust me, kid. You have got that exact same terrifying potential. But right now, you are not even close to Timar's level. Those words hit Jin like a ton of bricks. His pupils instantly shrank in pure shock. Does that mean I can never reach the Founder's heights? Jin's voice trembled slightly. Murakhan shot back flat. Nope. The blunt answer left the boy entirely baffled, forcing him to snap his gaze upward. The ancient dragon smirked. You share the exact same bond with Soldaret as Timar did. Plus, you actually have the brains to decode those ancient texts. You are just a kid, so stop trying to rush destiny. Keep grinding, and you will get there. With a booming laugh, the dragon violently ruffled the boy's hair. Give it time, and you will definitely rival Tamar's strength. Heck, you might even leave his legacy in the dust. Jin's head whipped around, eyes sparkling. Wait, seriously? Murakhan shrugged off the question with total casualness. Duh, kid. By the way, do you even know the God of Shadow's legendary title? Jin stuttered, suddenly feeling completely out of his depth. No, I do not. Right on cue, a terrifyingly massive shadow hand materialized out of thin air, looking like it could crush entire planets in the cosmos. Murakhan's deep voice echoed with absolute authority. They call him Infinity. The power of Soldaret knows zero boundaries, and that means his chosen contractor? Also totally limitless. So wipe that gloomy look off your face. Back yourself up, because I am about to drop a brand new, ultra-secret technique to lift your spirits. Wham! The dragon delivered a backslap so brutally heavy that Jin yelped in pain. Ouch! What the heck was that? Murakhan's grin widened. It is called Shadow Energy Release. Jin blinked, completely failing to grasp the hype. Shadow Energy Release? The colossal black dragon nodded proudly. Bingo. Anyone who dares to wield the darkness absolutely needs to master this foundational skill. It is the alpha and the omega of our power. But fair warning, mess this up, and the shadows will devour you alive. You need to take this one step at a time, dead seriously. Adrenaline surged through Jin's veins. Say less, I am all in. So, great Murakhan, what is step one? The ancient being scratched his chin in deep thought. For you? First things first. We need to crack open your mana core. Jin tilted his head, feigning sheer confusion. Unlock my mana? But why? Inwardly, however, the regressor was holding back a smirk. Bro, I have done this a million times in my past life. Murakhan instantly went into teacher mode, because letting the shadows flow literally requires you to break your mana seals and circulate the energy. You must achieve absolute mastery over both steps. Buckle up, kid, because you will be grinding this exact basic training for the next 2 to 3 years. Jin nearly choked on his own breath. 2 to 3 years? I do not have that kind of time to waste. Meanwhile, Murakhan just gave an uncaring shrug. Look, your foundation is completely non-existent right now. I cannot exactly hand you the god-tier skills yet. Realistically, your immediate goal is just learning to push the mana around your body. Without missing a beat, Jin casually raised his palm. Instantly, a brilliant blue flame sparked to life, dancing effortlessly over his fingers. Hey, so can we skip to the good part now? Murakhan's jaw basically hit the floor. His eyes bugged out as a full-body shiver wrecked his imposing figure. Wait, what? How on earth did you just pull that off? Playing the innocent prodigy, Jin answered with fake modesty. Oh, this? I figured it out a while ago. The legendary dragon looked like his brain was short-circuiting. This is impossible. You already have perfect mana circulation? Noticing the dragon's absolute disbelief, Jin decided to flex a little harder. He smoothly tossed the condensed mana sphere from his left hand to his right, treating the arcane energy like a literal toy. Murakhan was losing his mind. Holy skies above. He finally exhaled a massive, defeated sigh. A mastery level like that is reserved for the most insane prodigies in history. You really are a totally ridiculous monster, kid. Fine, forget the basics. Let us dive straight into the shadow energy release. Jin gave himself a massive mental high five. Hook, line, and sinker. Out loud, he simply nodded. Ready when you are. Murakhan's tone shifted, growing dangerously serious. True shadow energy is born from the absolute abyss. Every single patch of darkness you see, that is Soldaret's domain. Suddenly, eerie shadows began slithering across the training grounds like living snakes. He is the undisputed sovereign of all the gloom in this world. And as for his one and only chosen contractor, without warning, A pitch-black void erupted right under Jin's boots. A primal wave of pure terror spiked through the boy's spine. The menacing abyss exploded in intensity. It surged forward with the devastating speed of a tidal wave, viciously swallowing up that entire section of the room in absolute nothingness. Amidst the swirling void, Murakan's voice dropped into a bone-chilling whisper. It means, you have the divine right to command every single shadow on this planet. How is that for a power trip, kid? A terrifyingly awesome smirk plastered itself across Murakan's face. Behold, this is the true release of shadow energy. Jin stood entirely paralyzed by the sheer epicness, before slowly turning around. Flash forward, cut to an absolute scene of carnage. Deep in a blood-stained forest, a massive, terrifying dragon crash-landed right at the feet of a stunning silver-haired girl. A heavily armored knight sprinted up to the battlefield, saluting sharply. Lady Luna, this sector is completely wiped out. Just 5 more zones left, and our subjugation mission is a wrap. Luna glanced over her shoulder, her aura radiating terrifying calmness. Naturally, 4 months is more than enough time for this little warm-up. Order the vanguard to stand down and recover. Her piercing gaze drifted off into the distance, completely ignoring the agonizing monster screeches echoing in the background. She did not even flinch. Luna was a literal force of nature. Actually, there is one more critical issue, she muttered. The elite soldier stiffened, bracing for a brutal combat order. Yes, my lady? What are your commands? Luna's deadly serious expression cracked just a fraction. What exactly does a 9-year-old boy want for a present? Time skip. 6 months after the fateful encounter with Murakan, it was finally time for Tona to ditch the storm castle. Tona waved from the carriage. We are heading out now. Catch you back at the main estate. Jin shot back a bored farewell. Yeah, take care out there. As the carriage disappeared, he finally enjoyed some sweet peace and quiet. But suddenly, a familiar voice shattered the silence. Young master. He spun around, completely caught off guard by the sudden ambush. There stood Gilly, his fiercely loyal nanny, beaming with a beautifully decorated cake in her hands. Happy 9th birthday, young master. Jin blinked, his brilliant mind doing the quick math. Wait, it is my 9th birthday already? A genuine, heartwarming smile finally broke through his usual serious face. Guys, thank you all so much. Gilly, go ahead and slice this masterpiece up for the whole crew. Her eyes crinkled with pure joy. Right away, my sweet young master. But right in the middle of their wholesome celebration, an urgent shout ripped through the courtyard. Young Master Jin. Jin swiveled around, instantly recognizing the voice. Khan, what is he doing here? The elite knight rushed over and immediately dropped his head in deep shame. Forgive me for crashing the party, sir, but we have a major situation. Jin's eyes narrowed dangerously as he asked, What in the world? Khan muttered. Just then, a girl with striking white hair stepped into the room, her expression entirely unreadable. As those gorgeous flowing white locks drew closer, Khan literally forgot how to breathe. Lady Luna has graced us with her presence. The moment those words dropped, Gilly and Jin froze in their tracks. They simply could not believe their ears. Jin's mind started racing. The absolute pinnacle of the Runcandle Knights, a legendary 9-star powerhouse, the eldest of the 13 siblings, the White Whale herself, Luna Runcandle. Even though she wields more terrifying power than any of her siblings, she literally could not care less about claiming the Patriarch's throne. She completely washed her hands of that toxic, blood-soaked succession war, living entirely up to her title as the solitary White Whale. Because of that massive wall she built, my oldest sister never gave us younger siblings the time of day. Honestly, calling us absolute strangers would be way more accurate than calling us a family. That was the massive void between us. Yet, here she was, crashing the storm castle. Zero warning, zero notice. Did some catastrophic disaster hit the main family? Or worse, did she discover my secret little trips down into the hidden library? Shaking off his mounting paranoia, Jin cautiously spoke up. Sister Luna? Surprisingly, her voice echoed back with incredible warmth. Look at how much you have grown, my little one. Acting perfectly innocent, Jin softly replied. Had I known you were coming, I would have dressed properly to welcome you. Luna absolutely melted on the inside. What an incredibly sweet kid. Does a big sister really need an invitation to visit her adorable baby brother? Hearing that affectionate tone, Jin was completely mind-blown. But then, her gaze softened with worry. Goodness, you look so pale and exhausted. She gracefully dropped to one knee, gently resting her armored hands on his tiny shoulders to inspect his face up close. Jolted by the sudden closeness, Jin quickly waved it off. Oh no, honestly, I am just a little overwhelmed right now. Luna arched a flawless eyebrow at that confession. Lowering his voice, Jin mumbled, Well, this is my first time ever standing this close to you. I really do not know why my heart is racing like this. You feel anxious? She echoed. her expression instantly darkening as a heavy realization hit her. The twisted, blood-stained tradition of the Runkandle family, a brutal world where siblings must constantly scheme, backstab, and utterly crush one another to survive. Jin narrowed his eyes internally. Is this some kind of sick test? But right before his eyes, Luna tightly clenched her steel gauntlet, completely rendered speechless by her own overwhelming guilt. Breaking the heavy silence, she sighed. You are completely right. I was incredibly thoughtless. Jin blinked in pure bewilderment. Wait, what is happening? Her eyes swirled with genuine regret. You might just be a child, but I foolishly forgot. You are still a son born into the merciless Runkandle bloodline. I am so incredibly sorry. But the absolute shocker? The legendary white whale bowed her head, lowering herself even further to prove her absolute sincerity. My sweet little Jin, I really need a private word with you. Could you possibly ask your nanny and your knight to step outside for just a second? She asked with a smile so radiantly gentle. It felt utterly surreal. Jin's mind spun. A private conversation? Just the two of us? Knowing better than to make a 9-star night wait, he instantly nodded. Of course, big sister. Yet, behind his innocent eyes, his tactical mind was working in overdrive. I have absolutely no clue what her endgame is, but this definitely does not feel like a trap. Once they were alone, Luna spoke with incredible tenderness. Jin, my precious baby brother. The real reason I rushed over here so out of the blue is because there is something crucial you need to hear. What is it? He asked, tilting his head. Her eyes flashed with serious memories. During our father's last visit to this castle, your unbelievable talent put a massive target on your back. Every single one of our siblings noticed, meaning the absolute second you step foot outside this fortress. Every predator in our family will be gunning for you. Reaching out, she softly cupped his cheek with her battle-hardened hand. Her aura instantly shifted, growing undeniably solemn. But listen to me, little one. I desperately pray that you never sacrifice your own happiness, just to bleed in this meaningless war for the throne. I truly, deeply hope this cursed family tradition never breaks your spirit. Jin felt like he had just been struck by lightning. This made zero sense to him. As the gears in his head furiously turned, the puzzle pieces finally clicked. So that is the real reason she threw away her right to rule. But a dark thought crept in. Wait, if she cared so much about keeping me out of the crossfire, why did she never drop a single warning in my previous life? Was I just that incredibly pathetic back then? A total waste of breath? Or was I just so hopelessly weak that nobody even viewed me as prey? Looking her dead in the eye, Jin spoke up. Sister Luna, I deeply cherish your concern, but I refuse to run away from this bloodbath. I am diving straight in. Her gentle expression shattered, replaced by desperate urgency. Jin, please, you do not understand what is out there. I am not warning you because I plan on fighting you. I just want you safe. It is already too late for that, he stated coldly. I have already survived an assassination attempt. The temperature in the room plummeted below freezing, as Luna's eyes hollowed out. Excuse me, what did you just say? That is exactly why I have to fight, Jin declared. Suddenly, explosive, pitch-black aura erupted from Luna's very soul. Her voice dropped to a demonic whisper. Who in their right mind would dare touch a hair on your head inside the storm castle? Absolute, suffocating killing intent flooded the bedroom. The white whale had completely lost her mind with rage. Give me a name. Who signed their own death warrant by targeting you? Spit it out. Jin, whose head do I need to sever? Pretending to tremble under her monstrous pressure, he stammered. I do not know for sure. I swear, I have not tracked down the mastermind behind the shadows yet. But look at the bright side. Even though they tried to erase me, I am standing right here, completely unharmed. Luna lunged forward, gripping his shoulders with desperate, ironclad strength. Listen to me. Not everyone in this cursed family wants you dead. Hearing you say that actually warms my entire soul. A wave of sorrow washed over Luna's face. Jin, my precious baby brother, she whispered, pulling him into a bone-crushing embrace. Jin completely froze, his mind short-circuiting at the sudden affection. Her voice cracked with genuine agony. You being dragged into this bloodthirsty family war. It absolutely breaks me. Slowly, Jin wrapped his arms around her, utterly shell-shocked. Who knew the legendary Sister Luna had such a gentle side, he thought, awkwardly but softly patting her trembling shoulder. Please don't cry. Wiping away her heavy emotions, she affectionately messed up his hair. You're right. Today is a day for celebrating. No more depressing family politics. It is your big day, after all, and I brought something incredibly special just for you. With delicate care, she pulled an antique wooden box from her coat. For you. As the lid popped open, a breathtaking emerald pendant practically glowed in the light. Jin blinked in pure awe. Wait, jewelry? Turn around for a second, will you? She asked softly. Of course, Jin obliged without hesitation. As she fastened the clasp, her tone grew dead serious. Listen to me. If you ever face a threat that you absolutely cannot defeat, shatter this emerald. The second it breaks, I don't care if you're at the edge of the world, I will drop everything and slaughter anyone in your path. Never take it off. Happy 9th birthday, kiddo. Jin felt a massive lump in his throat. Thank you, truly. Right on cue, Gilly carried in a massive slice of birthday cake. Watching the two siblings playfully share the dessert, Gilly had to fight back tears at the violently wholesome scene. Once the sugar rush faded, Luna finally stood up. Look at the time. I really need to head back. Flashing a bright smile, Jin nodded. Got it. Get home safe, sis. The second she left, a grumbling Murakhan appeared out of nowhere. About time. Wait, where the heck did you get that ridiculous bling? It is a birthday present, Jin deadpanned. Suddenly, the great dragon started violently shaking, pointing a trembling finger at the gem. Whoever handed that over is either insanely rich or insanely obsessed with you. Giving away an artifact like that is absolute madness. Tilting his head, Jin played dumb. Why? Is it some kind of rare antique? Murakhan dropped his chaotic act, his eyes turning, dead serious. That is a relic of the Demon King Orgel, a millennium ago. Oceans of blood were spilled by warriors desperately trying to claim even a fragment of his gear. Jin raised an eyebrow. Is it seriously that overpowered? Are you kidding me? It straight up nullifies any magic attack from a 5-star mage or lower. Plus, it passively supercharges your own mana pool. Judging by the aura, it is definitely rigged with a high-tier summoning spell too. Staring at the grumpy dragon, Jin smirked. You are surprisingly well educated on this. Murakhan scoffed, breaking eye contact. Duh. We literally ruled the world during the exact same era. The guy was an absolute legend. Anyway, this overpowered trinket definitely came from that terrifying monster of a woman, who just casually strolled through here, right? Shoving a plate of leftover cake into the dragon's hands, Jin nodded. Yeah, my eldest sister paid a visit. He paused, eyes going wide. Hold up, you sensed her monstrous aura from all the way out here? Stuffing his face, Murakhan mumbled. Obviously. And I guarantee that freakishly strong sister of yours sensed me too. Jin nearly choked on his spit. Say what, right now? Wait, is she going to rat me out to the main family? Rolling his eyes, Murakhan sighed. Stop hyperventilating. She just handed you a priceless life-saving artifact. Does that seem like someone who wants to serve you up on a silver platter? The logic hit Jin like a truck. I guess you have a point. Exactly. You hit the jackpot with that one, the dragon cheered. Meanwhile, miles away from the estate, Luna stared into the distance, a knowing smirk playing on her lips. There is zero doubt. That was an ancient, overwhelmingly dark aura radiating from his room. Whatever insane scheme my baby brother is cooking up. Back in the room, Murakhan finally swallowed his bite of cake and literally burst into happy tears. What is this divine culinary magic? Jin just stared at the ancient dragon like he was a complete idiot. Luna's eyes softened under the moonlight. I will keep my mouth shut and play completely dumb. Just never forget this one truth, Jin. My sweet brother. Even if you become a villain who burns this world to ashes, I will forever be your shield. Fast forward a bit. This isolation period at Storm Castle was supposed to be a total snooze fest, but it completely flipped the script on my life. I finally secured my ruthless father's absolute attention, absorbed the legendary Phoenix Heart from Mary, unlocked the ultimate cheat code known as Sister Luna, and somehow tamed a mythical shadow dragon named Murakhan. In my miserable past life, claiming even one of these prizes was literally impossible. But right now, I am only 10 years old, and my stats are already off the charts. It is finally time to ditch this training ground and take over the main estate. Suddenly, steel violently clashed against steel. The training courtyard erupted into a high-speed blur of deadly strikes. Boom! A massive shockwave rattled the windows. Moving like a rabid predator, Jin closed the distance in a millisecond. Their swords locked together in a blinding spark of friction. Sweat dripped down Khan's face as he braced against the kid's insane physical power. Absolute monster. No wonder the patriarch is obsessed with him. I am supposed to be the master grading his skills here, but looking into those cold, calculating eyes, it feels like this 10-year-old prodigy is the one judging my entire worth as a swordsman. Gasping for air, Khan lowered his blade. Let us wrap up the spar for today. Jin nodded, barely even breaking a sweat. Out of nowhere, a familiar voice echoed across the yard. Young Master Jin. Tossing a towel over his shoulder, the boy spun around. What is up? Did you find a flaw in my footwork today? Khan immediately dropped into a deep, respectful bow. Guiding your blade has been the peak of my entire career. Your departure from Storm Castle is rapidly approaching, but I swear on my life to polish your skills to perfection until the very last second. A confident smirk painted Jin's face. Perfect. I expect nothing but absolute hell from your training until I leave. Later that night, Jin sat alone, casually weaving pure fire magic through his bare fingers. He fearlessly danced his hand directly through the scorching candle flame, his skin completely immune to the heat. Clenching his fist, he extinguished the blaze with a satisfied grin. My fire resistance is finally maxed out, young master. The sudden shout from Gilly made him jump. Panicking slightly, she rushed over. Good heavens, are you trying to roast your own hand off? Scratching the back of his neck awkwardly, Jin gave an innocent smile. Oh, don't worry. To me, this fire literally feels like a cozy bubble bath. A gentle smile crossed Gilly's face. Thank goodness Lady Mary's gift is finally kicking in, she whispered. The Phoenix Heart was nothing more than an absolute myth to me. To witness its divine power firsthand, it is purely breathtaking. Jin nodded in agreement. Yeah, no kidding. But internally, his mind was racing a mile a minute. I have barely devoured half of that insane medicinal energy. Give me a few more years, and I will have completely consumed its core. Gilly beamed with pride before turning toward the door. Rest up, young master. Our carriage departs the castle at the crack of dawn tomorrow. Shout if you need a single thing packed. Jin gave a chill thumbs up. But just as she stepped out, her eyes locked onto a stack of highly suspicious ancient tomes. Pausing, Gilly raised an eyebrow. Young master? Want me to safely stash these dusty old books? Jin quickly waved her off. Ah, nope. I need some light reading for the bumpy ride. She bowed gracefully. Crystal clear. Need anything else to kill the time? Jin shook his head smoothly. Just the books will do the trick. Muttering to herself, Gilly headed for the kitchen. Got it. I will whip up some killer strawberry shortcake for your road trip cravings. Jin nervously cleared his throat. Actually, do not sweat the snacks, Gilly. I desperately need to clear my head with a late-night stroll. Gilly whipped around, totally baffled. Wait, what? Pitch black outside, and you want to walk? Jin was already bolting. My bad. Be back in a flash. Slipping into the shadows, Jin hissed. Murakhan. Yo, Murakhan, wake up. A massive silhouette stirred. Took you long enough, kid. Jin stepped closer. Do not forget, we are ditching this fortress tomorrow. The great beast scoffed with absolute arrogance. Obviously. Do you have any idea how many centuries I have been rotting here, waiting for this exact moment? Jin crossed his arms. Okay, genius. How exactly does a giant dragon secretly tail me? Murakhan let out a booming, prideful laugh. Kid, do not sweat the small stuff. I am the one and only legendary black dragon. Sure, my power took a massive nosedive, but sneaking around is pure child's play. I will ghost through blind spots those human weaklings cannot even fathom. Jin froze, his eyes narrowing. Wait, hold up. You got weaker? How do you just casually drop a bombshell like that and not tell me? Murakhan rolled his gigantic eyes. Bro, I was in a magical coma for centuries. You expect me to wake up at peak performance? Jin gritted his teeth. Tell me you can actually reclaim your former glory. Murakhan smirked confidently. Duh. But honestly, you are destined to eclipse even my prime power. I am bound to you as your divine guardian, so stop slacking and awaken as an ultimate magic swordsman, just like the legendary Temar. Jin tilted his head, pieces clicking together. You mentioned the fearsome Runcandle bloodline originally wielded both blades and spells, right? Truth be told, Jin already knew this secret from the shadow god Soldaret in his tragic past life. The ruthless Runcandles were born as absolute monsters of magic swordsmanship, and their founding father, Temar Runcandel, was the most god-tier magic swordsman to ever walk the earth. A classified truth the modern world completely buried. Murakhan let out a heavy sigh. The only reason your obsessed family ditched magic for pure blade mastery? A binding, unbreakable blood oath forged exactly 1,000 years ago. Look, I might technically be the ancient guardian of this crazy clan, but if I crash their party right now, they would absolutely try to mount my head on a wall. Back in the Golden Age, you and I walking side by side would have humans worshipping the ground we stepped on. Jin blinked, utterly lost. Are you seriously saying the bloodthirsty Runcandles would bow to us? Murakhan flashed a toothy grin. Sounds like pure fiction now, right? Whatever. I will stay totally off the radar. Relax. Jin rubbed his temples. Fine. But what about your massive lair? The second someone patrols the underground library and sees a totally empty cavern, we are busted. Murakhan flexed a claw. I will just weave a hardcore illusion using pure dragon mana. Jin pressed on, panic rising. And if your cheap parlor trick shatters? Murakhan snapped, smoke pluming. Kid, do not insult the King of Shadows. Bending reality is literally my middle name. We are golden. Look, my core is still running on fumes. Murakhan sighed, his aura flickering. This illusion is gonna crack pretty quick. His voice dropped to a dead serious tone, but I'll push my limits to keep it active. Just sit back and enjoy the show until my powers fully reboot. Jin offered a cool nod. Got it, thanks. Murakhan's eyes actually shimmered with unshed tears. You know, a little more respect for my greatness wouldn't hurt. Deep down, you're just a massive softie. Jin awkwardly rubbed his neck before pulling out a hidden package. Anyway, I actually sneaked in some epic loot today. The ancient dragon's curiosity piqued instantly. Epic loot? Spill it, kid. Jin unveiled a flawless cake, absolutely glowing with the season's rarest crimson strawberries. Plus, some exclusive wine straight from my personal stash. Murakan's jaw basically hit the floor. Wait, seriously? Jin immediately shot him a death glare. Just don't get totally wasted and spawn cursed illusions. The legendary being completely lost his chill, acting like a hyped-up kid. Who's a good boy? Man, investing in your growth was the best decision ever. You should totally show off those skills to your nanny. Jin hesitated, weighing the risk. Maybe later. Meanwhile, Gilly's expression turned incredibly heavy. Young master, the Garden of Swords isn't some safe haven like Storm Castle. The main estate is an absolute snake pit. You've been grinding relentlessly here, I know. But the trials at the main base will completely shatter your current limits. Your schedule is going to be totally brutal. I won't be able to just casually bake for you anymore. Jin shot her a warm, reassuring smile. Hey, relax. I'm ready for this. I'll dominate the main castle just like I did here. Overwhelmed, Gilly dropped to one knee, placing a loyal hand over her heart. And I swear to serve as your ultimate shield. Suddenly, a booming voice echoed through the courtyard. Young master. Two heavily armored knights stepped up in perfect sync. Guardian Knights, Jerome and Holtz, reporting for duty. We are locked in to safely escort you straight to the Garden of Swords. All right, Jin. The stage is all yours now. With a final nod, the command was given. Move out. The massive convoy finally rolled into action. October 30th, 1790. I officially stepped out of my childhood cage. Warhorses roared against the endless sky. This marked the kickoff of my ruthless path toward the Runcandle Empire's core, the Garden of Swords. The carriage wheels quickly caught a blazing speed. From the plush interior, Gilly stared at the biting frost. A blizzard is hitting. The trails are going to get wiped out fast. We need to crash at a nearby outpost. If we push through, it's a death trap. Plus, heavy snow interference means the warp gates will be totally offline. Jin kept his vibe completely laid back. Sounds like a plan. Boom! A massive shockwave slammed into the carriage, violently tossing them like ragdolls. Panic flashed in Gilly's eyes. Young master, get down! From outside, roaring steel clashed as a knight screamed. Enemy ambush! Lock down the carriage now! Gilly instantly threw herself over Jin, turning her body into a human shield. Just breathe, young master. Don't panic. We've got this. Jerome and Holtz are absolute beasts at the 7-star level, and I won't let a single blade touch you. The screams of dying assassins began echoing through the blizzard. Wipe them off the map. Gilly narrowed her eyes, instantly scanning the chaos, reading 20 hostile signatures, a mixed squad of casters and heavy hitters, probably snipers in the trees too, but their mana output is weak. Nobody is breaking the 7-star threshold. Our knights are completely stonewalling them. The gears in Jin's head suddenly clicked. His blood ran cold. Gilly, blow the doors. We need to bail. Now. Gilly froze, totally caught off guard. Wait, what are you talking about? Jin's voice turned ice cold. Think about the absolute golden rule of the Runcandle family. A guardian knight must never abandon their post beside a pureblood. At least one of them should be glued to my shadow right now. The horrific truth suddenly slammed into Gilly like a freight train. Are you saying we've got a rat? Or these aren't even our real knights? Jin gritted his teeth. Bingo. Grab whatever steel is stashed in this rig. We are sitting ducks in here, Gilly. Fury erupted in her eyes as she snapped into combat mode. Copy that. I'm on it, young master. Surging with lethal aura, Gilly materialized her blade with absolute resolve. By the blood of Runcandle, I will shred anyone who crosses us. Forgive my incoming brutality. She kicked the shattered door open and plunged straight into the freezing chaos. Stay right on my heels, young master. I'll take full responsibility for breaking protocol once we survive. Jin practically scoffed as he dodged out into the snow. Save the apologies for when we aren't dodging death. Push forward toward the clash. I need to verify a crazy theory. Gilly blocked an incoming spell, totally bewildered. Verify what? Jin pointed through the smoke. The guys attacking our fake knights might actually be the good guys. Think about it. If this was a real hit job, they would have instantly sniped me, the exact second I popped out of that carriage. But the sniper fire is completely non-existent. Gilly's combat instincts flared as the puzzle came together. Holy crap, you're right. Through the blizzard, a massive warrior roared. Secure Jin Runcandle at all costs. Squad 3, lock down that left flank. Jin smirked in the shadows. Just like I thought. Gilly quickly identified their crests. The demon and the Black Peach insignias. That's the Mytel Magic Syndicate and the legendary Black King mercenaries. A caster throwing pure arcane energy spotted them through the fray. Target acquired. We've got eyes on Gilly McLaren and the young master. The entire mercenary squad shifted formation in absolute sync. Form a meat shield. Protect Jin Runcandle. A scarred, red-haired beast of a man stepped out of the carnage. I'm Merca, commander of the Black Kings. We caught a top-secret rescue bounty straight from the main Run Candle house. Merca's greatsword pulsed with vicious aura. You absolute trash. How dare you try to touch our VIP? Jin analyzed the battlefield. Yeah, these guards are total fakes. If they were packing real 7-star Run Candle firepower, they would have completely wiped the floor with these mercenaries in seconds. The fake knights were officially boxed in. Gilly leveled her blade at their throats. Drop the masks! Who sent you? Speak! The bald imposter just spat blood and let out a twisted sneer. Dumbest question of the year. You think I'm gonna spill my guts to a Run Candle lapdog? Gilly froze for a split second before looking back at him. What is your command, young master? Jin's voice was pure ice. Slaughter one. Sever the other guy's arm and drag him to my feet. Without a shred of hesitation, Gilly bowed deeply. Your will is absolute. She vanished into a blur of motion. The bald assassin barely registered the shift before Gilly's gaze turned absolutely demonic. A sickening, wet crunch echoed through the air. Watching his partner get effortlessly split in half, the white-haired fanatic stumbled backward, completely paralyzed by terror. He had just witnessed an absolute massacre. But before his brain could even scream to run, a blinding flash of steel completely severed his arm. The guy just stood there, completely shell-shocked. Only when the sharp whistle of the blade faded did a massive fountain of crimson erupt from his shoulder. Gilly's deadly glare locked onto her prey. She was an absolute menace. A brutal, crushing kick slammed him face first into the dirt, before her terrifying aura finally settled down. Snatching him by his snowy hair, she effortlessly hauled the broken assassin across the ground, forcing him to bow before Jin. Whoever sent you clowns seriously messed up their homework. Every single shadow serving the Run Candle bloodline boasts at least a staggering 7-star mastery. Jin flashed a wicked smirk. If you actually planned on taking out a Run Candle heir, you needed to bring an 8-star monster to the party. The bleeding fanatic started howling like a total madman. Shut your arrogant mouth. This is just the prologue. The mighty Run Candle empire will soon burn to ashes. Honestly, I would absolutely love to see that happen, Jin whispered. That single, chilling statement completely paralyzed Merca in his tracks, while Jin just kept smiling. The current Run Candle legacy bores me to death. I am only here to build the Jin Run Candle dynasty. Hearing this insane flex, the captive realized he was dealing with an absolute psycho. Keep your head down. Before the screaming assassin could thrash around, a legendary name echoed in Jin's mind. Zipful. Ah, the almighty sorcerer bloodline that held the entire other hemisphere in a chokehold. The Zipful House. While the Run Candle monsters stood as the absolute gods of the blade, the Zipful dynasty had unlocked the ultimate cheat codes of magic. Millennia ago, right after the original Run Candle patriarch fell, the Zipfuls forced a devastatingly toxic blood pact onto their rivals. They permanently banned sword wielders from ever touching a spell. Thanks to that curse, Run Candle's magical core was completely locked away, making the Zipful family their ultimate, 1,000-year nemesis. Makes total sense now. I was actually wondering what kind of fools would dare try this stunt. Just another brainwashed pawn of the magic faction. Jin let out a cold laugh. Gilly, toss this garbage out of my sight. Torturing a fanatic is just a massive waste of our time. Without missing a beat, Gilly nodded. Understood. The desperate captive started spitting curses. You little demon! Jin completely tuned him out, his mind racing. Obviously, the magic geeks view my bloodline as their biggest threat. Just finish the job, you cowards, the man shrieked. Meanwhile, Jin calmly connected the dots. They never stopped scheming to tear our family apart. But honestly, this sloppy hit job was not orchestrated by the main Zipful bosses. This had rogue fanboy energy written all over it. Still, the math is not mathing. No matter how insane their stealth spells are, slipping past a 7-star guardian is virtually impossible, unless someone on the inside actually pulled the strings. Interrupting his thoughts, Gilly delivered a flawless, knightly salute. The trash has been successfully disposed of, young master. Crossing his arms with a confident smirk, Jin nodded. Flawless work, Gilly. He then strolled straight up to the stunned mercenary. You mentioned you run the Black King unit, correct? Merca, still sweating profusely, Merca furiously nodded. Yes, my lord. Jin locked eyes with him, radiating an intimidating calm. I only survived that ambush because you guys played the perfect bait. The second I step back inside the Run Candle fortress, your squad is getting a massive shout-out. Expect a legendary payday coming your way. Now, get that teleportation gate fully operational. Merca immediately snapped into a deep, respectful bow. Consider it done, sir. But internally, Merca was completely losing his mind. How does a literal kid from that terrifying family survive out here like it is nothing? The boy was only 10 years old, yet he oozed the overwhelming presence of a veteran warlord. Swallowing hard, Merca realized something terrifying. That crazy speech from earlier. The image of Jin's unshakable swagger burned into his brain. I am forging the path that will crown the era of Jin Run Candle. A massive chill ran down his spine. The kid was not just bluffing. He is dead set on conquering the world. Spinning around, Mirka barked at his crew. You two, wait, no, every single one of you, listen up. Until we get this warp gate running, you better keep yourselves completely in check. One wrong move and we are all finished. Got it? A brown-haired grunt instantly whined. Are you serious right now, boss? You are acting totally paranoid. The bald mercenary groaned out loud. Bro, since when do we tiptoe around like a bunch of nervous rookies? The guy with the headband just looked completely lost. Did the captain completely lose his marbles? Mirka absolutely exploded. Shut your mouths and follow orders before I end you. Gilly smoothly cut through the chaos. The perimeter is secure. It is time to move. Jolted out of his anger, Mirka quickly straightened up. Crystal clear, ma'am. He pressed a fist to his heart. Let's roll out immediately. As they trekked away from the massacre, Mirka cautiously whispered, Are we seriously just leaving those mangled bodies out in the open? Gilly's response was completely ice cold. It does not matter. She didn't even look back. Whoever discovers the bloody mess we left behind will realize exactly what happens when you cross a run candle. Jin flashed a thoroughly impressed grin. Perfect logic, Gilly. Her cheeks tinted slightly. Thank you, my liege. She dipped her head gracefully. By the way, intel says the next settlement is roughly 2 hours out. Jin kept his cool guy persona. Perfect timing. We will crash there and let this raging blizzard die down. But just as the wind howled, Jin suddenly stopped. Gilly. Her curiosity was obvious. Jin completely understood. Listen, drop the guilt about that escort mission. It totally was not your fault. Even a legendary 9-star knight like Khan missed the red flags, Jin reassured her. A 7-star warrior like you would naturally struggle to spot that kind of hidden threat. Look, I am not trying to lecture you on how to be a proper guard knight. But Gilly's face was painted with pure guilt. I have failed you, she whispered. Staring at her, a heavy realization hit him. She has not changed one bit from his past life, Jin thought, his heart aching. As a dedicated nanny of the absolute Run Candle bloodline, her entire destiny is chained to the child she protects. In his previous life, Gilly was his absolute anchor. Memories flooded Jin's mind. Flashes of Gilly, getting ruthlessly mocked by the other caretakers. Because he was a talentless outcast, she was dragged through absolute hell and humiliation for his sake. Yet, she never threw a single ounce of blame his way. On that doomed day when the Run Candle clan banished him, Gilly was tossed out into the cold right beside him. And even then, her only words were, Young master, I am so completely sorry. Sorry that I could not protect you better. She had bowed her head so low, her voice shattering his heart. Jin bit his lip hard, his eyes darkening. He refused to make life miserable for the one person who showed him true warmth. But reality check, this timeline hits entirely different from his past life. Gilly seriously needed to level up her mental armor. Her knuckles turned white as she tightened her fists. Young master, I will gladly accept whatever brutal punishment for this massive failure. Jin's voice sliced through the tension. Cut the self-pity right now. That is an absolute order, Gilly. He locked eyes with her, his aura shifting. As long as you wear the title of my nanny, you are the only absolute guardian I will ever need. If you crumble over minor setbacks like this, how will you ever have my back when real danger strikes? Gilly instantly swallowed her apologies. Her expression hardened into pure, deadly focus. So do not make me repeat myself. Are we crystal clear? Gilly bowed, deeply submitting to his absolute authority. Yes, young master, I will absolutely fix this. Inside, a spark ignited in Gilly's soul. To think that her tiny young master cared about her pride this much. A fierce, unyielding loyalty consumed her. His harsh words were a shield to protect her. She swore to sharpen her senses and annihilate any threat before it even breathed near him. Fire burned in her eyes as she promised to become his ultimate sword. Feeling the heavy tension evaporate, a hidden weight lifted off Jin's chest. Thank God. It looked like her inner fire was roaring back to life. A creaky door swung wide, spilling golden light and a cozy welcome sign. The weary squad stepped inside. The rugged innkeeper immediately eyed them. How many rooms are you folks hunting for? Mirka did not miss a beat. 2 rooms. Meanwhile, Jin's mind was racing at light speed. Those shady figures and that squad of counterfeit guard knights. A chilling smirk crept onto Jin's face. If his radar was dead on, that specific bastard definitely pulled the strings from the shadows. The silhouette of a massive, twisted figure flashed in his mind. The shape-shifting demon, Bouvard Gaston. Jin's eyes narrowed. Total physical transformation was a legendary trait reserved solely for the dragon race. Yet, even almighty dragons leave tiny flaws in their human forms. But Bouvard? He is the one single freak of nature who can forge a flawlessly identical disguise. He weaponized that absolute power, staging massive crimes and plunging the entire world into pure chaos. Exhaustion washing over him, Jin dragged his bedroom door open. If Bouvard was actually the mastermind here, the difficulty level just skyrocketed. Sure, that villain had not unleashed his absolute worst nightmares yet, but still, right before stepping out, Mirka tossed a quick glance back. Hey, if you guys need literally anything, just holler for me. Gilly offered a sharp nod. Much appreciated, Captain Mirka. Jin collapsed onto the stiff mattress, his brain still grinding. In his first life, when he hit 20, Vermont's elite task force finally dragged that psycho down. If he could somehow brainwash Bouvard into joining his crew, those cheat-level skills would be insane. A deep frown crashed his thoughts. Yeah, right. Like he was going to team up with a snake who already aimed a blade at his neck. A massive yawn ripped through him. Before that freak unleashed hell, he desperately needed to scan this timeline for any butterfly effects. Gilly turned toward the door, her voice dropping softly. Young master, I will hold the line right outside. Total silence answered her. Frowning, she peeked back into the room. Young master? He was out cold, dead to the world on the blankets, watching his peaceful, unguarded face. A soft gasp escaped her lips. Oh my. A warm, motherly smile bloomed on her face as she tiptoed out to protect his peace. Outside, a sleek, pitch-black cattail began twitching wildly in the moonlight. Meow, yowl. The relentless screeching, scratching at the glass was absolute torture. It violently ripped Jin straight out of his deep slumber. God, what a nightmare. He aggressively rubbed his eyes, fighting through the brain fog. Wait, did I totally pass out? The obnoxious yowling echoed louder. Popping his stiff joints, a reality check hit him. Man, he had survived hardcore solo training back at the legendary Storm Castle, but this grueling pace was literally destroying his 10-year-old body. Seriously, what is that racket? He shot a glare at the window, making the shadowy feline instantly freeze in panic. It went stiff as a statue. Jin blinked in pure confusion. Huh? An awkward, deafening silence filled the room, heavy with invisible question marks. Then, it finally clicked. Jin's eyes blew wide open in absolute disbelief. Wait, do not tell me? A chaotic memory flashed before his eyes. The ancient shadow dragon, Murakan, howling with laughter. Isn't this brilliant? I will always stalk you from the shadows, kid. Relax. Back then, Jin had just chuckled along. Yeah, whatever you say, he had joked. Now, he stared blankly at the legendary dragon, currently a raging furball furiously clawing at the glass. Jin could barely contain his laughter, his shoulders shaking. You promised you would stay hidden and trail me. But seriously, morphing into a tiny fuzzball? The shadowy feline, Murakan, hissed with pure irritation. This only made Jin bite his lip harder to stifle a chuckle. Okay, my bad. I swear I'm sorry. Jin pushed the window wide open, letting the grumpy furball inside. It just totally caught me off guard. I definitely did not expect this compact look. He stared at the cat, radiating wisps of dark aura. Honestly, I figured. You would just shapeshift into some random servant, maybe a stable boy. Boom. Murakan snapped back into his human body, absolutely fuming. Listen here, kid. If I tried pulling that off, your family's psycho knights would sniff me out in a heartbeat. The dragon's ego was clearly bruised. Do you have any idea what a nightmare it was, tracking you? Mid-rant, his boot snagged on an uneven floorboard. Down he went, eating absolute dirt. Bam! His face slammed right into the bedroom wall. He groaned in agony. Down the hall, Gilly's sharp ears caught the massive thud. She kicked the door open, panic flashing in her eyes. Young master, are you okay? But instead of an assassin, she spotted a grown man hunched over. He was clutching his bruised forehead, shaking like a leaf. Gilly's expression instantly turned lethal. Who the hell are you, and why are you stalking my lord? She pinned Murakan down, her aura exploding. She raised her iron claws, dead set on turning his face into mincemeat. Start talking, right now, before I permanently delete you from existence. Speak. Jin scrambled frantically to stop the execution. Hold up, Gilly. Stand down. This guy is… Murakan froze, his eyes locked on her. Gilly? Wait, is that actually Gilly? He instantly shot to his feet, cheeks burning bright red. Oh wow, my sweet strawberry shortcake. Destiny has finally brought us together. Gilly reeled back, her face twisting in pure, unfiltered disgust. She looked at him like he was a cockroach on her shoe. Strawberry, what now? Murakan puffed out his chest, oozing unearned confidence. I have literally dreamed of this moment. She blinked, completely utterly lost. Excuse me? Jin just facepalmed, watching this absolute train wreck unfold. Great, this is a total disaster. He sighed, deciding to rip off the band-aid. Alright, let's do introductions. Gilly, meet Murakan. He is actually the legendary guardian deity of the Runkandel bloodline, the great black dragon himself. Jin then gestured toward his loyal nanny. And Murakhan, this is Gilly. But before Jin could even drop her last name, Murakhan aggressively cut him off. Oh, I know exactly who she is. She is my adorable little pastry, right? Instantly, Gilly dropped into a deep, formal bow. Her voice shook slightly as the gravity of the situation hit her. This lowly servant of the Runkandel household begs for mercy. I deeply apologize for threatening our guardian god. Please spare my life. Seeing her cower, Murakhan threw his head back and belted out a booming laugh. Chill out, my sweet strawberry shortcake. You are totally fine. I would never hold a grudge against a face like yours. Still entirely weirded out, Gilly cautiously raised her head. Lord Murakhan, sir. Why exactly do you keep calling me a baked good? Murakhan hit her with his most charming, entirely unsolicited smirk. Because you are breathtaking, gorgeous, and your strawberry cakes hit different. Gilly's jaw dropped to the floor, absolute realization washing over her. Hold on a second. Is this guy the real reason you demanded those cakes every single day, young master? Jin threw his hands up in surrender. Can we all just sit down? Let me explain. Gilly's intense gaze softened, a hint of genuine sadness creeping into her voice. There is a whole hidden universe inside you, young master. Secrets I was completely blind to. Jin met her disappointed eyes, guilt gnawing at him. I am so sorry for keeping you in the dark, Gilly. She quickly shook her head. Please, do not apologize. I always knew your potential was terrifying, but mastering magic, binding with Soldaret, and keeping a literal dragon as a pet, it is just a lot to process. But honestly, I am incredibly proud. A spark of awe lit up Gilly's eyes. Jin smiled warmly, shifting to business mode. Look, Gilly, you are officially in our inner circle now, but the main house cannot find out that Murakhan is awake or that we are partnered. This stays strictly between us, understand? Gilly nodded firmly, her loyalty unshaken. Crystal clear, young master, my lips are sealed. Murakhan suddenly shoved his way in front of Jin. He puffed out his chest, trying way too hard to impress her. Zero stress needed. Shortcake. The great Murakhan has this kid's back, 24/7. Gilly forced a polite, deeply uncomfortable smile. Your generosity knows no bounds, Lord Murakhan. Then something clicked in Gilly's head. Wait, that massive crash earlier, was that the recoil from your epic dragon transformation? Jin opened his mouth. Actually, no. He glanced sideways at the mighty deity. That was just him being aggressively clumsy. Murakhan desperately leaned in and hissed into Jin's ear. Shut your trap, kid. I tripped on a dumb plank. Trying to save face, the dragon suddenly jolted upright, projecting a thunderous, super fake laugh. Gilly watched this supposedly legendary being act like a total clown. She shot Jin a deeply concerned side-eye. Young master, is this guy actually going to be useful in a fight? Jin stared at the chuckling dragon, zero confidence in his own voice. Honestly, we will just have to pray. Cut to the bustling Metel teleportation gate. Gilly stood face to face with the rugged commander, Mirka. Flawless execution, Black King team. Mirka scanned the area, confused. Were we not tracking a weird cat a second ago? Ignoring him, Gilly pressed on. The Runkandel estate will ensure your pockets are heavily lined for this run. Mirka waved off the promise of gold. The payday is great, but surviving this nightmare was the real prize. Honestly, I am beyond hyped to see what kind of monster your young master grows up to be, especially with you guarding his shadow. Mirka's casual tone shifted, his eyes narrowing with burning curiosity. But hey, I have a burning question for you. Gilly's guard instantly went up. Spit it out. Mirka leaned in. A prodigy like you, why walk away from the legendary McLaren bloodline? Just to play babysitter for a Runkandel kid? The air grew heavy as Gilly completely froze. Refusing to answer, she spun on her heel, shooting him a final, icy glare. Our business has officially concluded. Goodbye. Realizing he had stepped on a massive landmine, Mirka nervously scratched his head. My bad. Crossed a line. Without another word, Gilly vanished into the crowd. The grand doors glided open. Stepping into the expansive terminal, the receptionist's eyes immediately locked onto Gilly and Jin. Welcome to the central teleportation hub. Papers for the Hoofister Alliance, please? She scanned the documents, and her breath suddenly hitched. Wait a minute. The Runkandel bloodline. Her posture instantly snapped into a deep, trembling bow. It is an absolute honor to serve you. Right this way, please. We have prepared our exclusive VIP lounge for your utmost comfort. Everything will be handled instantly. Departure is scheduled in roughly 2 hours. Please rest well. As the door clicked shut, Gilly's voice dropped to a nervous whisper. Young master? Jin shifted his gaze toward her. Anxiety heavily shadowed her usually calm features. Honestly, as your loyal servant, my nerves are completely shot right now. If Lord Murakhan's true identity slips out, the fallout would be catastrophic. Jin smirked slightly. You mean my hidden magic? Obviously, a spellcasting run candle is pure heresy. Relax, Gilly. I know the stakes, and my lips are sealed tight. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed behind them. The air instantly shifted. Both of them whipped around, sensing an uninvited presence. That obnoxious golden dragon crest. The Zipful clan. A smirking, white-haired teenager strutted forward, flanked by two massive, aura-radiating bodyguards. Jin's eyes narrowed, analyzing the threat. Who is this guy? That face screams trouble. Wait, Varadin Zipful. The rival heir shot Jin a glaringly arrogant look. Man, my intuition was spot on. I just knew today's trip to Hoofester was going to be a total drag. Didn't expect to run into such annoying pests here. Gilly shot Jin a desperate warning glance, but Varadin's attention had already drifted to the furball. Not going to lie, the cat is pretty adorable. Varadin carelessly reached out to pet the disguised dragon. Come here, little buddy. Big mistake. The magical feline lashed out instantly, ripping a bloody scratch across Varadin's hand. The mage yelped in pain. Young master. The guards roared, drawing their weapons at the beast. You filthy animal! But Varadin just waved off his furious escorts. Stand down, guys. It is just a pet. I probably startled the poor thing. Besides, flashing steel in front of a run candle? Not exactly a smart move. Varadin shot a calculating smirk toward Jin and Gilly. Honestly, I was just bored and wanted to test the waters. Poke the bear a little. But zero reaction? That is actually pretty disappointing. Looks like the notorious youngest run candle has some absolute ice in his veins. Stepping up, he declared, the name is Varadin Zipful. My bad for acting like a total jerk a second ago. Jin's gaze remained completely deadpan. Varadin Zipful, the highly acclaimed prodigy of magic, the absolute frontrunner for the Zipful throne. Basically, the ultimate idol for every rookie spellcaster out there, dripping with pure talent and endless hype. In my past life, his magical prowess totally eclipsed mine. But that was the old me. Crossing paths with him now, on a completely leveled playing field? This adrenaline rush is absolutely insane, right? Jin casually stroked Murakan's fur, radiating zero fear. Honestly, I was curious about the rumors. Good to see you are not completely brain-dead. Varadin chuckled, highly amused. Oh? And what is your official verdict? Jin leaned in slightly. Even with your prodigy status, if your attack dogs pulled their blades, you would be touring Hufster completely solo. Oh, and you would probably be missing a few fingers too. Varadin burst into a hysterical fit of laughter. Damn, your sense of humor is completely unhinged. Jin did not even crack a smile. His aura visibly darkened. Do I look like I am joking? A real chill ran down Varadin's spine as he met Jin's dead predatory eyes. Okay, message received. But let me drop some free advice on you. Next time you bump into a Zipful, or find yourself in a tense standoff like this, maybe do not jump straight to amputation. Trust me, that kind of bloodshed just creates massive headaches for everyone. He tried to keep the vibe light and sarcastic. Think about it. The legendary Siron Run Candle, and my old man, Kellyark Zipful. You really think those titans care about a teenage turf war? For a split second, Varadin's confident facade cracked. Then he threw his head back and howled with laughter. Fair point. You completely nailed it. They would probably just throw some hush money at the problem. Listen, you actually taught me a solid lesson today. I definitely owe you one. Jin's voice dropped to a freezing monotone. Do not hold it. Cash that favor in right now. Varadin blinked, clearly thrown off balance. Sure thing. Name your price. Jin did not miss a single beat. I would be incredibly grateful if you just shut your mouth. Keep it down until the gate opens, and stop ruining my nap. Varadin stood completely stunned, a wild smirk slowly creeping onto his face. This absolute madman, Jin Runkandel. Give him a few years, and he is going to become an absolute monster. Honestly, if we were not from rival bloodlines, I would totally recruit him into my crew. Varadin's eyes were glued to Jin with sparking interest. It got so intense, his giant guard leaned in with an awkward whisper. Young master, please maintain your image. Suddenly, an explosive idea hit Varadin like lightning. Hold up. He is a top-tier run candle. Does that make him my fated ultimate arch-nemesis? This is so epic. The massive guard just face-palmed heavily. Young master, I am begging you to chill. Jin watched the prodigy practically vibrate with excitement and let out a tired, mental groan. What an absolute headache. His hand is literally dripping blood, and he is completely spacing out. Are all Zipfuls secretly unhinged? Pure lunatics, the whole lot of them. Suddenly, a magical broadcast echoed through the hall. Thank you for your patience. The teleportation gate is now powering up. Brace for minor spatial nausea and vertigo. All cleared passengers, please approach the glowing portal. Out of nowhere, Varadin smashed his fist on the table. Jin Runkandel. This was insanely fun. See you on the battlefield next time. I'm good. Let's never cross paths again. Jin shot back, his voice absolute ice. The scene shifts. Jin finally stood before the legendary Run Candle estate. Petro, the estate's second butler, bowed so low his nose nearly brushed the dirt. We've been expecting your arrival, young master. It is my absolute honor to officially welcome you home. I am Petro, your second butler. Your journey must have been grueling. Allow me to warmly welcome you to the beating heart of the Run Candle bloodline, the Garden of Swords. This wasn't just a garden, it was a sacred graveyard. Only those who bled and died for the clan's supreme prosperity earned the right to plant their blades here. It stood as the ultimate flex of Run Candle honor and ambition. But Jin, he just strolled right past it, his eyes completely deadpan. In his past life, planting his sword in this dirt was his ultimate dream. Before my regression, he thought, I was totally pathetic. A complete zero. Zero talent, zero leadership. Why was I dumb enough to think that just grinding hard could actually cheat fate? But this time, everything hits different. He locked his gaze on the massive fortress looming ahead. In this ruthless empire, I'm going to